What up though, One Pride? This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where One Pride goes worldwide. My name is Antony Fitzpatrick. I'm joined this evening by Ryan McCluskey, and we are here with the college football podcast, Hooker, Line and Sinker. Ryan, it seems like a minute ago since we started doing all about this college season, and almost we're halfway already. You know, the contenders are starting to really emerge here. Some of the pretenders are starting to think, oh, hang on, these might be good here. There's a lot going on in the world of college football at the moment.
Yep, some are starting to pull away. About 8 teams have already locked up a bowl game or have become bowl eligible already. So there are teams that have flown through the competition. There are teams that are now started hot but have just ground to a halt. But yeah, it's very interesting that some of the teams this season, I don't see any terrible. There's very few terrible teams. Some teams have all pulled out at least like one signature win so far, and the premier conferences, like say the SEC, kind of struggling. Like I said, we're seeing more entertainment and better quality across the board in other places, especially like the Big 12.
Oh yeah, like everybody's struggling. Even the top seeds, Georgia, Alabama, are struggling to put teams away. You know, this is going to be really interesting. Now we're starting to get a lot of the, ranked fixtures come up, especially amongst the big boys. There's some big boy fixtures coming up this weekend, so it's going to be interesting to see who kind of takes the bull by the horn there. But yeah, really, really critical part of the college season coming up. And you know what? It's going to be great. And this podcast is going to become a lot more relevant because the way the Lions are doing at the moment, then eyes are starting to turn towards the draft already, so we need to start swatting up real quickly on some of these guys. So we have a packed show for you today. We are going to take a quick look at the FCS with Ryan as per what we'll be doing in future weeks from now on. We'll go through some college news, not too much. We will take a review of week 6 just gone by. We'll be previewing the upcoming week 7, some bangers in store there, and we're going to start taking a look at some prospects this evening. We're going to be taking a look at kickers, because boy oh boy do we need a kicker in the line zone, and we're going to be looking at some safeties as well. So we have a hell of a lot to get through. Just shout out to everyone in the chat who's joining us. Lions Talk with Micro Mike is in the building. I love Mike. He says, best group of content creators on YouTube. Yeah, I said it. Mike, you are always going to be the gold standard at Detroit Lions content creation, but we really do thankfully appreciate all the support you give us. It really is much appreciated, and we can't thank you enough for that. Grandizer is in the building. Good day to you, sir. Hope you are well. Det Fanman is in the building. Det Fanman might be another week closer to seeing his General Boutte join the College Football League. We'll talk about that one very shortly, actually. But yeah, good to have you in the building with us, Det Fanman. Got a few people in on Twitch as well. So yeah, if you've got any questions, you want to say it, want to converse with us, just drop us a message and we will get it in the show for you. Just got to do the housekeeping before we kick all this off. So as per usual, Roar of the Lions UK Discord, if you want to come and get involved in that, just give us a holler and we will send you a link out there. The Detroit Lions main podcast, we all had a very sobering experience the other day talking about the Patriots and Lions game. There was a lot of anger, a lot of tears, a lot of cuddling, a lot of trying to, just get each other through this rough part of the season at the moment, but it's well worth a listen, so go give it a check out. And just a reminder, we are on bye week, so there will not be a show tomorrow because we have no preview to talk about, but we will be back next Monday. I'll go through that with all the next show stuff later on. Don't forget to like and subscribe to everything. We're at 597 subscribers on YouTube at the minute, just 3 away from the big 600, so if you're listening, you're not subscribed to us yet, you like what we do, just give us a follow. Get us over that mark this evening. If you don't quite like us yet, we will try and raise our game to the point where you do like us. Lions Nation Unite, don't forget to get involved with that. Herman Moore's app. Content creation done by Detroit Lions fans for Detroit Lions fans. You'll find some really great content creators on there. You'll find Dose DR, Mark Oram, Micro Mike, who's just the best of us all. You will find Detroit Lions on the prowl. The man the man of steel, Kurt Steele over there doing a terrific job. I know Ryan and Tom, 2 of our guys from our pod, have just done a little chat with him detailing our fandom of the Detroit Lions and why we started doing content creation for the Detroit Lions. So that'll be dropping soon. So keep an eye on Detroit Lions on the prowl for that. You will get to see us once more. Right, let us crack on with the show, because we all... Oh, Grandizer, someone was going to make that joke, weren't they? Lions versus the bye favoured by 3, yeah, it is. The bye always is favoured by us. I think the bye is pretty much unbeaten when it comes against us, so yeah. Oh dear, I'm glad the bye's here. Detroit Lions fans need it. We need a week off. We need a week to mentally get ourselves back together, and the team needs a week to mentally get itself back together as well. So here's hoping they do, and we have a much more pleasant experience when we play the Cowboys in about 10 days' time. Right, let us crack on with all this. So the news... not really that much this evening. Unbeaten teams, there were 16 last week. There are 15 left this week. Only one team fell this weekend. We will talk about them in a little while. It was a big shame, but still a lot of teams flying the banner for the unbeaten group, but there's a lot of them playing against each other this week, so many of them will fall, and we'll start seeing who the real contenders here are. And there's also 2 other stories I want to very quickly mention. I know we talk about college football on here, but these are sort of stories at large over in America at the minute. Just wanted to quickly point them out in here. So obviously everyone will know about the big manhunt that's going on from the weekend. There is a big group of students who are missing over in the US. They were meant to go to a football game on Saturday. They never appeared. They still haven't been found. So if you are over there and any of you happen to see the Oklahoma Sooners football team, report it to your nearest police station and let them know that they are alive and well, because apparently they didn't turn up for their game this previous weekend, and it really was a mess in their absence. And the other bit of news I wanted to mention, and Ryan, I'll get your thoughts on this as well. Let's just say we're not big fans of this one, but apparently the state of Iowa has passed a law which prohibits their college football teams from scoring more than 10 points in a game. They're not allowed to play offensive football at all. The only offense they're allowed to play is offensive crimes towards college football. This weekend, both their teams, State and the Hawkeyes, scored 15 points between them. They punted the ball 14 times between them. When you cannot score more points than the times you are punting a football in a game, you should be banned for a while you stop and think about yourself here. But I mean, Ryan, you mentioned that Virginia kind of needs wiping off the college football map at the minute. I think we need to add Iowa to that list at this moment in time.
Yeah, it's been bad, and only Iowa State have got an excuse, because they lost Brock Purdy and Ospreys Hall. So all their offense left in draft last year, so obviously they're struggling. But Iowa only lost their running back, Tyler Goodson. Spencer Petras has been terrible for a couple of years now, and he's having another terrible year. So they've just got no excuse. Their defense is still relatively holding its side of the bargain up, but they've scored 11 points, 12, twice this year, and have not come away with wins, even when they're holding teams under 15 and 20. So it's criminal. Like I said, 2 teams that one side of the ball is doing everything it can to hold teams into games, and the offense is just not getting it done. And you have to really feel, because you'd feel like that would create tension in a locker room, or the head coaches, divisions or rivalries on one side, when one side of the team shows up week in, week out, and the other just can't get anything going. I'd hate to be in that locker room. It must be pretty tense.
And they seem to be collectively dragging down the performance of everybody they face as well, because, I mean, there were no points scored. I think there were 19 points scored in one game, 15 in the other, and it's just like, oh, dearie me. It's poor. Even the lowest of the low teams, your UNLVs, your New Mexico State, all that, are scoring more than that. Iowa are truly bad. Iowa have the worst offense in college football right now. I think they've got 233 yards per game, and that is it. And that is below everybody. That's even below Hawaii. So you need to really have a long hard look at yourself there, Iowa. So yeah, that's it for the news. I say there wasn't really much in there this week, just a few skits I thought I would put in there. So first big real segment of the day, I'm going to hand this over to Ryan now. Ryan obviously started taking a look at the FCS, the Football Championship subdivision, the one below the the FBS, which we discuss every week, and he's keeping a running update of what's going on down there, so I'm going to pass over to him to let us know what went on in the world of the FCS this past weekend.
So it was a very interesting week in the FCS. North Dakota State, number 1 in the country, almost caused a huge upset. They scraped by with a 31-26 win, and that's because I think he's called McMillian, their star running back, came back and put up 146 yards on the ground. Hunter Lupke, who a lot think is a potential draft NFL running back, fullback, gave another 70, and they managed to just get over the line. But they were down at the half and they were struggling through there. So that was almost the biggest game of the week. That had been an upset. Now, my individual performance the FCS week is going to go to the quarterback, Xavier Shepard. He had basically a flawless game. He went 13 of 18 for 172 yards and 2 touchdowns, and also carried the rock 34 times for another 102 yards and another 2 touchdowns. Kennesaw State were dragged into a double overtime nightmare, but they managed to come away 40-34, and I think they can thank their quarterback for that, because he was their entire offense on the day and did not put a foot wrong. So that he got it done on the ground, down through the air, so the cleanest game. My game of the week, actually, is a very old Ivy League rivalry. Now, I've checked online, don't check me on this, but I believe Dartmouth and Yale first played in 1884. That is their, according to Sports Wiki, their first ever meeting. So this is a very historic Ivy League battle, and these teams don't like each other. Dartmouth, Yale, Harvard, these are some of the smartest kids in the country, and some of them can also play football. And Yale came away with a huge 24-21 victory this weekend. They held Dartmouth to 20 yards rushing on 15 carries. Their quarterback had -7 with them, and then 2 of the guys had 4 each. Their defensive front was absolutely phenomenal. Huge havoc rate, and they had to do very little on offense to win. So Yale came away with their bragging rights, and that is going to really sting, because a lot of Ivy League schools just pound the rock hard. So that is going to sting there, and that is a big interdivision Ivy League win. The big shake-ups in rankings this week. So the biggest losers were Delaware. They were 13th. No, they were 7th. They're now down to 13th. They lost 6 places this week. William and Mary are now up to 11th and have risen 5 places, and that is because the Tribe took down Delaware in a 1-score game. So that was 2 big, heavy ranked sides, and William and Mary came out on top this week. So they are one of the biggest winners of the rivalry rankings. The best record in the top FCS is 6-0. The Holy Cross Crusaders, they are looking for a 4th-peat, a quadruple. They won the Patriots League in 19, in 20, in 21, and at 6-0, they're almost close to wrapping up the Patriots League for a 4th year in a row. They're one of the smallest teams. They're very little known about the Patriots League, but they hold their own incredibly well in the top of the FCS rankings there. And some big sides came into the rankings that weren't ranked last week. Fordham, the Rams are actually 5-1 now, but were not ranked at all last week, even despite them picking up a big win. Austin Peay and Rhode Island, they now all come into the rankings and weren't ranked last week. So yeah, big shake-up, but the top 10 stayed as it was. I think just a few of them changed places, but the second week in a row, no one dropped out of the top 10, I believe.
So a little bit of a power vacuum forming at the top of the FCS there. So yeah,
I believe next week is South Dakota State. I think it's North Dakota State. It's 1v2, biggest rivalry in FCS football.
Yeah, it is the big one this weekend, so that is one to watch out for if you get a chance to watch that. Weirdly enough, I don't know why, but you mentioned the William and Mary one there. I was watching a video on them earlier today. Their offensive coordinator is mad. Some of the plays he had, someone had done this little compilation of plays they were coming out with at the weekend, and God knows how or why he thought of them, but they seem to be working. So whoever's OC down there at William and Mary is doing a good, if not interesting job down there with some of his play calling. But yeah, that is everything so far for the FCS. Like Ryan says, there's got to be some big games this weekend, 1 versus 2, so we will see. We will return to that next week and see how everything goes on with that. Grandizer in the chat says, Ryan's rants increased the subs by 50. Yes, they probably did, Grandizer. It's getting a very popular segment at the minute. We're thinking of doing like a grind my gears thing that Peter Griffin did on Family Guy with him. That should be very entertaining to hear Ryan rant in his little segments there. So you might get something specific coming your way very soon. Right, let's move it on. We said we were going to look at 2 separate position groups this evening in regards to the draft going forward. We're going to fit one of those in before we start talking about the weekend just gone's football. So, kicker watch. I think it's safe to say, Ryan, the Detroit Lions really need a kicker at this moment in time, because it seems we've had more kickers in these last few weeks than we've had good performances from the team in the last 5 years.
I mean, kickers in the last 2 years. We had a lot last year, didn't we? Like I say, we had Santoso, we had Patterson, we had Randy Bullock. I think we've had like 7 kickers in like the last 2 years have probably played a game. And that is bad. That is terrible. The transition and the rotation period is just terrible. We've just brought in Sam Ficken now, but Michael Badgley didn't even get a go on Sunday. So we've now got 2 kickers, and we're probably not going to kick a field goal next week because we don't believe in them. So it is a mess. We need to go back to finding someone we trust.
Absolutely, and I had this comment made to us on Twitter earlier from Randall, who's on there. He says he thinks there's going to be an upturn in kickers, maybe looking to in teams looking to draft kickers through the draft, and I think that might be well and true. You've seen Cage York, he's come up, he's had a little bit of inconsistency, but you trust your future more with him than you would some of these scrubs who are going around the system at the minute getting churned in and out. So I think kicker's probably going to be on the agenda for the Lions going forward. So we said we were going to have a little look through some of these. I think Ryan's got 1 guy he's going to focus on. I've got 3 I'm just going to quickly go through first. So these are kind of the guys I've got my eye on at this moment in time, potentially to draft in the year going forward. So the first guy I have here on the list is Daniel Gutierrez. He is the kicker down at UNLV, that's the University of Nevada in Las Vegas. They are having a much better season than we predicted early on. I think they've got 4 wins under their belts already in their first 6. I think we only predicted them to have 2 wins all season. He is quite possibly going to be the first player who has been drafted from a UMVL team in over a decade. I think it was 2010 that team last had a draft pick, but this guy looks like he is going to get drafted. He's 5'11", he's 220 pounds, he's in his 6th season, so he's a super senior. Struggled initially, as a lot of kickers do when they start out in college, but the last 2 years he's nigh on perfect. He's 22 of 24 on field goals, he's 6 of 6 this year, and he's 49 of 49 on PATs. Got a career long of 50. He's showcased high accuracy from in and around that range, and he's 16 and 17 from 39 yards and closer, so the short range accuracy is pretty much bang on, and he's not much worse when you go up to between 40 and 50. So he is a name that you need to keep your eye on if you're talking kickers in the draft going forward. The second guy I've got, in-state guy, Jake Moody of Michigan. He is the current holder of the Lou Groza Award. That is given to the best kicker in the nation. He won that last season. He converted 92% of his field goals and all 56 point after attempts. He's clutch kicked for the Wolverines. He has won games for them with clutch field goals. He's on the verge of moving into their top 10 all-time scorers. This season he is 30 of 30 on PATs. He has missed 3 field goals in 12 attempts this year, so that's something to keep a little bit of an eye on, but there is really zero doubt that he does have the pedigree to be a kicker on Sundays, and his big advantage is he's used to kicking in Midwestern conditions playing for Michigan. That will help in conference with Detroit when we go to places like Wisconsin, etc. So he knows the conditions in this area of the country, so that will help. And the third guy I've got on here is Brandon Talton from Nevada. So if you don't necessarily want your guy who's like 100% clutch all the time, if you want a big leg, this is the guy who can fire them in from 50 plus yards. He's on a really bad team at the moment, so they are not giving him much of a chance to kick. He is perfect on point after attempts. He's 12 of 12. He's 6 of 7 on field goals. The only field goal he's missed this year was a 57-yarder against Iowa, but he did get iced for 4 hours due to lightning delays. He was about to take a kick. There was a flash of lightning. You have to abandon the game for so long when that happens if it's near the stadium. He came back out 4 hours later and took his kick. So extenuating circumstances, and you can forgive that. The game itself took about 7 hours. Career-wise, he's 119 of 123 on PATs. He's 64 of 80 on field goals. Now, that sounds bad. He had a real big down year in 2021, which has affected those stats, but he is back to his best this season. If you're looking for the next possible best long-range kicker in the NFL, then this guy is probably one of your best bets here, even if you have to deal with a little bit of inaccuracy to start with from closer range. If you want a clutch long-range kicker, you look at this guy. So the three I've got: Daniel Gutierrez, UNLV, Jake Moody from Michigan, and Brandon Talton from Nevada. I'll pass this over to Ryan now. Ryan, who have you got in your kicker watch?
I've got Zach Long. He's a 4-year starter for the Tulsa. Now, he's been asked to do a lot. In 4 years, he's attempted 49 field goals because their offense isn't that good. He's made 41 at an 83.7% completion percentage. I think his longest is between 47 and 49. And he's made 85 of 87 extra points. So he has accumulated 208 points on himself in just the last 4 years. And now, without looking at, probably makes him one of the highest point scorers for the last 4 years. Now, he hasn't got the strongest leg, but he kicks nearly 11, 12 field goals a season. He's asked to. Most powered offenses don't even kick that any other two. They don't ask their kicker to even make that many kicks. So he has got a very warm leg. And I think he's someone that will probably be in the next batch of guys that's going to the NFL, because he's at 4 years now. And I think with that amount of work and production behind him, because he's probably kicked more in his career than some will ever kick in their life, he's been asked to come in and be very dependable. I think he's someone that could get a job or a practice squad pretty quickly. I think he'll get worked out very well, because it's not often you go through college and you have to make over 50 field goals. So whether that says more about the Tulsa offense or him, but he's someone that's very reliable.
There you go. So on your kicker watch, you've got kickers from Tulsa, UNLV, Michigan, and Nevada. They're the places you want to go if you want to look for your special teams this year. Right, let's move it on, and we're going to talk now about Week 6. A lot of interesting and fascinating games went on this week. We're going to start with the pick watch fixtures, and then we're going to move it on to some of the more other notable results there. So, as always, with the titles of the show, someone or some team gets inserted into them. We talk about them first. This week's title, Hooker, Line and Sinker. Of course, we're talking about Hendon Hooker and his Tennessee Volunteers team, who are looking pretty damn good, let's safe to say. Me and Ryan both got this one right. I think only one person bet LSU in our pick watch this week. But Tennessee 40, LSU 13, and this was in the Bayou, this was in Tigers' homeland. The Volunteers rolled in, wrecked shit, and then left, and they look damn good going into their match with Alabama this weekend. So, as I say, Tennessee dominated this entire game. From the opening kickoff, LSU muffed it, gave it straight back to the Volunteers. They scored on that drive. They never looked back. It wasn't even a contest for one snap. This one was. Both sides of the ball suffocated LSU, and like I said, at no point did they look like they would win this. So the Volunteers defense, they had a 22% defensive run stuff rate. They allowed just 89 rushing yards at 3.8 yards per carry, and LSU have a dual threat well, I say dual threat, Ryan will probably laugh, but he's semi-dual threat quarterback and a decent running back. Kept him to less than 90 yards, 3.8 yards per carry. They had a 15% havoc rate, 10 tackles for loss, 5 sacks. They had an interception. They had 2 fumble recoveries. This turnover look for Tennessee equaled 16.5 points for them. So when you take all the turnovers into account, Tennessee won the turnover battle. They got 16.5 points more than LSU did on that. And whilst they did give up 300 passing yards, they kept LSU to a mere 28% red zone success rate. That is awful. So they played the bend, not break defense just about perfectly. On offense, Hendon Hooker continues to have a stellar season. He was 17 of 27, 239 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He rushed 10 times for 56 yards as well. The wide receiver Jalen Hyatt snagged both of his touchdown passes. Brew McCoy had 7 receptions for 140 yards. That's 20 yards per catch on average. Jabari Small, the running back, he rushed for 127 yards and 2 touchdowns on 22 carries, as all facets of the Tennessee offense were on fire. LSU bad across the board. I mean, I know LSU are not the best team in the world round, but this Tennessee team looks legit this year. They strangled the life out of LSU.
Yeah, and in LSU as well, like you say, going down to Louisiana, that is it's not an easy place to go. Even if you're a team that thinks comfortable winning, it's not an environment you want to play football in because it's very one-sided. And Hendon Hooker is firmly in the Heisman running right now. He's having a stellar final year. Like I say, he is aged like fine wine now. Coming up like he's 24, he's having the best start to his season so far, and he looks great. And Brew McCoy, he was like a 5-star kid when he went to USC a few years ago, and it just didn't work out. You never knew if he was on the team. He never got any targets. I think he took a year out, something. He's transferred, gone to Tennessee, and that's the biggest game of his career so far. He was supposed to be the next big thing. So he's finally found a home, and I think he's going to have a really good season. Tennessee are firmly in the SEC title race right now. As long as a Hooker keeps churning and that defense gives up everything at midfield and then clamps down the red zone, the Volunteers could go a long way. And their smoky grey uniforms, people on Twitter hated them. I loved them. I thought grey and orange do never go together, but they looked damn good.
Ah, damn, I forgot to do the uniform stuff for first again. Yeah, we'll do the uniforms at the end again. But yeah, I agree. They look terrific. I mean, Hendon Hooker, he's throwing at 70% completion. He's got 10 touchdowns, 0 picks on this year at this moment in time. And I know the age goes against him, but I mean, he's got to be looking at QB3 comfortably now. I don't think there's anyone really close to him at this moment in time behind him. And if you're an NFL team, I don't think you should have much of a problem taking him despite the age, do you?
I think the age thing is probably kind of just stopped now. Kenny Pickett, he was the same age, got drafted in baby hands, like you say. I think the time of drafting all the quarterbacks is fine. I don't think it puts teams off anymore. If the draft was this week, he would go in the top 50 picks. I would put my house on it if I owned one. I would guarantee it definitely would put it. He has pulled away from Levis and Mensley.
Yeah, I fully agree. There is a big difference now. Levis is just very disappointing this year at this moment in time, and my support there has waned quite a lot for him. But you know what? Fair play to Hendon Hooker. He is having a great year. That Tennessee Vols team looks amazing, and we're going to be talking about them again later on. So that is not the last of the Tennessee talk this evening. Luke G is in the building on YouTube. Welcome to you, sir. Hope you are doing well. Yeah, thank you for joining us, Luke. Really appreciate having you here. Right, let's move this on to some other games, and the most ugly game. In fact, no, you know what? This is crazy that it's not even the ugliest game of the weekend. It's probably third, but every single person got burnt by this one, right? Colorado State at Nevada. Colorado State won 17-14. And you want to know the crazy part about this? Colorado State's offense scored 3 points all game, and it was with the last kick of the game. It was a winning field goal. I mean, the numbers in this game are disgusting. Colorado State's offense averaged 4.65 yards per play. That is 16th percentile. They had a 2% explosive play rate. That's 2 percentile. Third down success rate was 20%. That is 5th percentile. Red zone success rate 0. Not one successful drive in the red zone. 0%. And on Nevada's side, it ain't really much better. 5.2 yards per play. That's 29th percentile. Third down success rate 35%. That's 29th percentile. 33% in the red zone. 32nd percentile. This is about as ugly a game as you can get. I mean, Nevada put up 180 more yards on offense. Colorado State only put up 256 yards. They're running at 5.8 yards per carry. They did all right, but passing it, 3.3 yards per play when passing. And this was just ugly. The turnover luck accounted for most of the points for Colorado State. Let's say the defense scored 2 touchdowns. The offense got one field goal that won them the game. It's just, I watched this and I don't know why. I had to rub my eyes out with bleach afterwards. It was ugly.
Oh yeah, Colorado State must have watched back like some Iowa film, or like gone out of the handbook of the Iowa Hawkeyes, because this is a prime Iowa performance. Nevada should be ashamed of themselves. All the shit we talked about Colorado State, head coach fucked off, took half his players, season's gone to shit. Like I said, you had your chance to get the utmost revenge and make him look silly, and you let a team that didn't even score on offense beat you. Like I said, 250 yards of offense is all they mustered, and you could not beat them. Like, you got to have a long hard look in the mirror if you're a Wolfpack player, because you're not going to get a chance to get that bragging rights back again. Colorado State, their defense, like I say, you've got to applaud it. It's stepped up. Like I say, Benz didn't break as well. Like I say, it gave up a lot of yardage, but it gave up fuck all in points, and it managed to get 2 big scores. So that is a huge day for his defense. He must be really encouraged with what he saw on defense there. But the offense, still the biggest red flag, not getting fixed anytime soon. So, yeah, this will be the most notable win of the season, I can guarantee that. But yeah, he must have been really smug when he was shaking that head coach's hand at full time.
Yeah, and like you say, if you're Nevada, you're ashamed of yourselves after that. I feel sorry for Toa Tower, the running back. He does not deserve this. He had 120 yards and 2 touchdowns, and it's just like his team does nothing for him. I think as a running back prospect, he is going to go way under the radar going into the draft. He's probably going to get picked up as an undrafted free agent, and this is not going to be his fault either. He's just playing in such an awful team which is holding him back. I mean, he's got like 14 100-yard rushing games there, and even more 100-plus all-purpose games, and he's getting absolutely wasted by that Nevada side. It's a shame. I wish he'd transferred and gone somewhere which appreciated him. Dr. Detroit's in the building. Thank you for joining us, good sir. Hope you are well today. Right, let us move this on. We get to talk about this. Ash is not around for me to make fun of him at this moment in time. But Florida State versus North Carolina State. Oh, I enjoyed this one, even if the game was, again, another very ugly, very disjointed performance. Florida State 17, North Carolina State 19. The Wolfpack move on to a 5-1 record. The Seminoles now lost back-to-back fixtures as their season is in danger of fizzling out. And North Carolina State did it without Devin Leary. He got knocked out with an injury in the 3rd quarter. He'd not looked really good, to be fair. He was 10 of 21. He had 130 yards, a touchdown and an interception on the day. Florida State's defense made his life miserable for the most part of it there. But Florida State, they got all their points in the 2nd quarter. For 3 quarters of this game, they got shut out. And, it wasn't like they didn't get yards. Travis, he got 7 carries, 108 yards on the ground. He threw for 181 yards and a touchdown, but he threw 2 picks in this one as well. And North Carolina State's defense is just damn good this year. It may give up yardage, but it doesn't give away a lot of points. I mean, this is... I think we're starting to see the real Florida State now, right? If you can't beat, a team whose quarterback is knocked out in the 3rd quarter, early in the 3rd quarter, put it this way, his backup, so the backup for North Carolina State, he's a transfer from Charleston Southern, I think it is. He had more receptions in this game than completed passes. He didn't complete a single pass and he had 1 reception. He couldn't throw the ball. All North Carolina State did was run it. Florida State knew they were just going to run it, and yet they still put up points and they couldn't stop it. I mean, I think Florida State, the wheels off the bus, the wheels on the bus have well come off, really, haven't they?
Yep, they've been exposed as frauds. Their chances of getting anywhere in the ACC are over. 2 losses, and now 2 massive ACC losses. Their goose is cooked. So yeah, it's going to be another scrappy bowl game season for them. And Mike Norvell probably really frustrated. What a promising season has rapidly fallen off in the last 2 weeks. Like I say, not Travis got a knock. Jared Verse, like I say, he was hurt as well against Wake Forest. He came out. So, and then you say NC State game. How on earth they weren't able to stop a one-dimensional team for the best part of 1.5 quarters with a quarterback that had absolutely no intention of trying to win the game, just had to manage it and just be a handoff merchant. You knew what they wanted to do. You couldn't stop it. Travis had his worst game of the season because he was sloppy with the ball and gave it away. And this is the real game where we see the real Florida State. So, yeah. But NC State, they survived one. They got away with one. But they keep marching on. They're clinging on to the coattails of Clemson with like Wake Forest. So they're hanging in there.
Oh God, yeah. They that's 2 times now they've really scraped through it with this by the hair of their chinny chin chin. The East Carolina game to start the season, they missed a field goal, which would have been a walk-off one, and this one. I mean, what did you make of the decision? Because Florida State were driving it. This was going down towards the end of the game. All they needed to do was kick a field goal to win, and they had the clock dead to rights, and then Norvell calls a passing play into the end zone. Must have been about 20, 25. It was still... And I know Ash goes, well, they don't trust the kicker. I mean, that's a story we've never heard, in the last week. But he said they didn't trust the kicker, but they were damn close. They were not far off in terms of a field goal, but they called a throw into the end zone into double coverage. I mean, that's a baffling decision, isn't it? I don't think it's all cut and dry, as Ash says, where they had to do it. I feel like that was a big boo-boo on Mike Norvell's part.
I mean, how can you not trust your kicker from a kick with inside 40 yards? Why is he on the team? Why is he a scholarship? Is he got a scholarship? Because if he has, I'd go up to him, I'd fucking tear it up. If he can't be trusted to make like a 37-yard game-winning field goal, instead give it to your quarterback who's already thrown 2 interceptions at this point, to then take a shot into the end zone, that's just silly. Wake Forest did the same thing not 2 weeks ago. Like I said, instead of trying to get the 4th down yardage to get first down late in the game, like I said, they went for an end zone shot into double coverage and it got batted away and they lost. So yeah, there's teams out there that are making bad decisions when it comes to the end of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. It baffled me. I had all but consigned myself to Ash waking up in the morning and ripping the hell out of me on the chat. I thought we were done for, and then it was just like, I was like, oh my god, what's he called that play for? It was crazy. I don't get it, but I'm delighted, and NC State move on. Hopefully Devin Leary's back soon. They've said he could be back this week, he could be out 6 weeks. I don't know what the issue is. It's a shoulder issue, and they've still not said what's happening with him, so that could be North Carolina State in a lot of bother if he is out for a while, so we'll see with that one. Alright, moving on. We diverged on this one. All Pac-12 action. You got this one right. Utah, UCLA. I picked Utah, you picked UCLA, and we have to have a discussion here about maybe just how legit UCLA are this season. They are one of the last 15 undefeated teams in the league, and I'm not going to say they put Utah to the sword, but it was pretty convincing in the end. Utah 32, UCLA 42, as that offense just continues to, age like a fine wine. It looks great in both facets at the minute. Dorian Thompson-Robinson having a great year. He went 18 of 23, 299 yards, 4 touchdowns, just 1 interception. He also ran one in on the ground. Zach Charbonnet, 22 carries, 198 yards, averaged 9 yards per carry. He got a touchdown on the day as well. It's a 1-2 punch that's working for them. DTR seems to have upped his passing game this year and kept it unpredictable enough when Chardonnay's getting in the short yardage situations. And Charbonnet himself, I mean, it just goes to show what sort of a great running back room Michigan have when he was, regarded as surplus to requirements there. He's he's having a year and a half himself. He's had God knows how many 100-yard games already. This UCLA offense is one of the best going at this moment in time, isn't it?
The offense is firing power, yeah. I still don't trust DTR. Never have, never will. He is a product of having one of the best backs in the Power 5. Zach Charbonnet is storming up draft boards. He is going to earn some serious dollar next year. He is going to be one of those guys that goes in second, third round. He's got the speed, elusiveness, and he's got a big old frame as well to be a pro back. UCLA are relevant until they're not. Their head coach, we all know, is a maniac, and DTR can sometimes just absolutely bottle it. If someone stops the run game completely 1 week and asks DTR to win on his shoulders, I reckon they flop. I do not trust him when he doesn't have a complement. He doesn't have someone to rely back on. On the other side, that Utah defense, absolutely falling to pieces. Clark Phillips III, one of the best corners, I'd say, still in college football, but what good is a corner if the rest of the defense is pretty shoddy? It's been getting bulldozed now for weeks, and it's just too leaky. And Cam Rising, he just can't keep up with it. Like I say, he makes the odd turnover because he tries too hard, because that's like Utah now. They keep falling behind too quickly. The run game has to go out the window, and they're trying to play catch up. So the Ute season, I think, is about to fizzle out very quickly. But yeah, like I say, UCLA right now are leading the Pac-12. Like I say, them and USC on a collision course for what could be a very fun game if they make the championship.
Yeah, I agree. It is that Utah defense that's let down. I mean, and the offense, you can't really complain in this one. I mean, they only got 90 yards less than what UCLA did. So this was a 1,100-yard offensive game. UCLA got 582. Utah got 491. I mean, when you're putting up nearly 500 yards of offense in a game, you expect to win. And, you know, it's kind of not on you when you don't. Rising had, 287 yards passing, no touchdowns thrown. He did throw a pick as well. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. Tavian Thomas was running at 5 yards a carry at a touchdown, but of course they had to kind of get away from that the further they fell behind. And yeah, it's a shame really for Utah. They're missing Devin Lloyd really big time, because, you know, when you're leader of your defense, he was the leader there. Everything went through Devin Lloyd. He was a do-it-all linebacker who just kind of gave that defense a little bit more juice going forward. And you can see. They're
not scoring touchdowns either, because Brent Cuther, the hybrid wide receiver, tightens up for the season. And Dalton Kincaid can't play receiver. He is a tight end. He's big. He's not very fast. They lack real options.
Yeah.
So they will continue to struggle all year because they just can't score touchdowns. In the red zone, they are nullified because they do not have a red zone threat on that team.
Well, just go back to that opening day against Florida. What was it? 2 first and goal situations, and they got 0 points from it. It's just, yeah, you're right. They're lacking someone there in the red zone who's taking them places. So, a shame for Utah there. But I mean, both offenses did incredibly well. I mean, there's just greens across the board for all the stats. I mean, nearly 10 yards per play. UCLA were. Utah was 6.5 yards per play. You can't really go at that. Utah 60% on third downs. UCLA 50% on third down. So neither defense could make a stop on third down. Utah was 67% in the red zone when they got there, but it was just a case of not really getting there often enough. The defenses, you know, on a day like this, it's pretty difficult. I mean, there were 8 tackles for loss from Utah, just 3 from UCLA. There's not really a great deal in there in terms of that. So, yeah, big high-scoring game. UCLA move on, still going, and we'll see what happens with their season. As Ryan said, they've got more big games coming up, and yeah, going to be a real test of their credentials now. They're in that stretch of the season where if they get through the next few games and they're still unbeaten, they're going to be Pac-12 champions, and I don't think there's going to be any doubt about that. Right, moving on, and Mac Attack action. Not often that we talk about the Mac Attack in the Pick Watch, but I put it in there this week, and I am very happy to say that me and Ryan got this one absolutely bang on. Eastern Michigan at Western Michigan. I think a lot of people just suddenly went for Western in the in the pick watch, I think they just thought, oh, they're home favourites, Western. They had the more noticeable names last year. They'll go for it. Junie, who is our resident Mac expert in the Royal Lines UK Discord, he also went Eastern along with me and Ryan, and all three of us, oh, we were done right in this one. Eastern Michigan destroyed them. It was 45-23, and Eastern Michigan, bear in mind, were on the road. At half time, it was 35-7. This thing was over at half time, and there was sort of just a coast through the second half as sort of Eastern Michigan cruised to a slow win. So their quarterback, Eastern Michigan's Taylor Powell, 20 of 30, 293 yards, 3 touchdowns thrown. The running back, Samson Evans, 90 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns. He converted a lot in short yardage situations. Darius Lassiter, Hassan Beydoun, Dylan Drummond all got receiving touchdowns, all over 50 yards. Darius Lassiter had a 104-yard day there. On defense, it was a show and a half. So Jose Ramirez, he is the defensive lineman on Eastern Michigan's side. 4 sacks on the day to go with a further 6 tackles. He absolutely, him and Jack Salopek could have confirmed themselves married that day. They were spending so much time with one another. On Western's side, Salopek, 15 of 40, so well below 50%. They got behind the sticks early. They couldn't run the ball anymore. They had to keep throwing it. He had 208 yards, 2 touchdowns, didn't throw a pick, but at the end of the day, it didn't really matter. The run game was averaging about 4 yards per carry. It's not enough when you can't throw the ball really either. And they had a little bit of success on defense. They had about 3 or 4 sacks on the day, but this was it was a mismatch, Ryan. We justified this by saying Western lost too much in the draft last year. They lost too many of their big playmakers, whereas Eastern, they were steady last year. They made a bowl game. They didn't lose so much in the off-season. They're well drilled, good drilled team. They play well. You kind of figured that lack of consistency for Western was going to harm them, and oh boy, did it.
Yeah, and when I saw what AMU did to Arizona State, I was never going to not pick them. That running back, Samson, he had a career day against ASU. He built his biggest numbers ever rushing. So I knew they had a proper spearhead running back, and their offense was just explosive. Just chunk players, like I say, and they were just going after it. There wasn't even enough time to get in the backfield, because by the time the ball was handed off, they were rushing. It was a heavy offense. They controlled time of possession heavily. Because like I said, they had so many offensive players. And on the other side, there was just nothing going, like you said. Accuracy from the quarterback was bad, but receivers also weren't able to get open. Because there was no run game, the defense didn't have to respect it. They could just stack the box, put corners on a receiver, and make them try beat them one-on-one, and they simply couldn't do it. Just couldn't get open, or they couldn't get the space, or they couldn't find them. And that defense had a very big day, and in the end, they just pounded them into submission.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Western, it is a really bad season for them. They're going to have a reload year at this point. I think the year at this point is written off for them, and they're just going to have to kind of accept that they might get a few wins here and there, but that is going to be that. So, well done to Eastern. You proved us right on that one. We're really appreciative for you there. Moving on, Big Ten action next, and I'm proud to say I called this one right. Purdue at Maryland. We were split. Ryan went with Maryland. I bet against Maryland once again. I went with Purdue because I'm kind of an Aidan O'Connell fan. They narrowly came through this game. So Purdue 31, Maryland 29. It was very close all the way through. I think it was 17 all at halftime. There were no points scored in the third quarter, and then Purdue scored 14-12 in the fourth quarter. It was very, very minor. This was a game where both quarterbacks were on show. So just to put it this way, Purdue's offense on the day, 43 rushing yards, 360 passing yards. Maryland's offense, 88 rushing yards, 315 passing yards. So that's 675 yards of passing offense and about 120 on the ground. You can tell what happened here, as it often does with Maryland. It got into a slugfest. Who can throw the ball better? Who can throw the ball further? And not many people are going to beat Aidan O'Connell when it comes down to that. Taulia, 315 yards, 3 touchdowns and an interception on the day. Aidan O'Connell, 360 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception on the day. These guys really went hell for leather after one another, and both defenses kind of took a back seat to proceedings here. I know Sidner, the Purdue defensive lineman, I remember him having a couple of sacks in the game. He did alright there, but it was kind of individual performances here. But, you know, this is a case again, Ryan. Maryland looking good when they start, but they throw away a game that they should be winning, and it just shows you where that team is really at right now.
Yeah, it's just it's a one-man team, and they're only as good or as bad as Taulia Tagovailoa, and he did everything he could, but this was one of those games, like I say, he who laughs loudest. So they got the ball last year, like I say, they were able to dominate the fourth quarter. They had the stamina to go through the fourth quarter and hang in there and eke out the win, and Maryland really let one slip here. Like I say, they get dragged into these games very often, and they'll win 50%, they'll lose 50%. So they'll be very frustrated. I say the interceptions weren't too costly on either side, but yeah, I think at one point, like I say, Maryland probably had needed to go 2, but they just weren't as successful enough when they were rolling the dice. So Maryland and Purdue both just going to have average years. Yeah. Both just started very averagely. So there's playmakers on both sides of the ball. So both these QBs have got intentions of making the draft. I don't really see either of them maybe getting drafted, but there's no reason to say they can't both be on a practice squad or be a backup next year or in the future. They've both got very redeeming qualities about them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you see Skylar Thompson, he's about to get his first start in the NFL this week. I kind of feel like they might be on his level, so if the right circumstances were to come up, then you never know. But I mean, Aidan just has a way. He makes it. I mean, Charlie Jones didn't even have a good game here. He had 15 yards on 3 receptions. He's been the outstanding receiver for them. It was Payne Durham who had the yardage this time. He had 110 yards and a touchdown. So Aidan's sort of spreading the love around a little bit there. And then on Maryland's side, it was Corey Dyche. He had 106 yards. He had a couple of touchdowns. Darrell Nami and just Sean Barham, they got a couple of sacks each on the Maryland defense, but outside of that, this was mainly an offensively based thing, and they're both sort of 4-2 on the year. That Big Ten West is looking a bit. It's looking like it always does. It's just all over the place. And no one's. Yeah, one big ass mess is probably the best way to call this one. So well done to Purdue, got the victory there at Maryland. Now we had the big neutral site game this weekend, the battle of the 2 big independents, BYU and Notre Dame. Ryan very, very reticently went with Notre Dame. I went with BYU, and for the second time this year, BYU burned me. Notre Dame seemed to have finally found their identity this year under Drew Pine. They won 28 points to 20. Thanks in part due to a second quarter where they scored 15 points. They sort of created a bit of a gap there that BYU were never able to really claw back. Drew Pine had 262 yards. He threw 3 touchdowns, just 1 interception. Michael Mayer looked every bit the tight end, possibly number 1 this year. 118 yards. 2 touchdowns on just 11 receptions. He was the game winner, really, for them this week. And on BYU's side, Jaron Hall was very, very disappointing. 9 of 17, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception. The run game did alright, but wasn't enough to keep them in this. And they just never really looked like catching up after that second quarter. I mean, Notre Dame, they seem to have found themselves now, right, after a very, very rough start.
Yeah, went 0-3 to start the season. People were questioning if Marcus Freeman. They've won 3 on a bounce, which is very surprising. So they're now 3-3. So Drew Pine, I don't know, he's just had this miraculous turnaround. For 2 or 3, like I say, for the opening 2 or 3 games of the season, he looked every bit like the inexperienced young man that you'd expect. But He's looked a bit savvier, a bit more like a vet the last few weeks. He's getting the job done without much of a run game either. Like I say, Notre Dame are not running the ball very well this year. Like I say, Karen Williams wasn't really replaced. The defense has been hella leaky all year and been exploited, despite having some big old names. There's some superstar names in that defense, but they have not lived up to potential so far. But yeah, this was a tough one. It was a hard battle, and they did well to come out of it. Like I said, they gained a lot of respect because it wasn't an easy win. And BYU, they're such a weird team, like I say. They're a team you love to hate. Sometimes they pull off the big win, and they look every bit of the star independent. So like this, they flatter to deceive, and they just shoot themselves in the foot. And Jaron Hall as well, he's just so hot and cold. Like I say, he's had a bad week this week, but 2 weeks ago will have had a great week. And I just don't know where that program's going.
No.
They really struggle. Like I say, they wore fantastic gradient black blue uniforms, but yeah, this was Uniswag's match of the week of uniforms. The gold and white Notre Dame, absolutely despise it. I just don't like gold, it looks tacky. And then the black and blue fades for BYU look great, but the football is not great. But Marcus Freeman will take wins any way he can get them right now, because, like I say, he's had a lot of pressure dumped on him. So, yeah, Notre Dame have finally found their feet. Let's see if they can kick on. This is their first notable win of the season. BYU just have got to find better ways to win. They can't just rely on good quarterback play, because, as you mentioned, the ground game, it just ain't getting it done since all the years gone.
Yeah, it's bad. It's really, really, really bad, and it's a shame for Hall, because this is a big year for him. He's one of those who should be putting himself in contention for a potential first-round draft pick, but he's not doing it at the minute. You wouldn't part with one at the minute, but one guy you would part with one with, and as I saw at the minute, because first-round tight ends are not exactly high on your agenda at the minute, given what's going on with TJ, but Michael Mayer, he really put himself in the spotlight this week, and his draft stock is slowly heading in the round one direction again.
See, I look at this class, I couldn't spend the first on anyone. I think teams will be very wary. They're going to look back at what's happened previously with our own, and I just don't see it. He's the best by a mile. He's the safest hands at tight end in the country, and he's rugged, he's tough. I think he'll probably go in the second, a bit like this year. Like say the Colorado State tight end, Trey McBride, went miles before everyone. I reckon he's heading in that direction. Teams will be very wary about spending another first right now on a tight end.
Yeah.
Brock Bowers, I think Brock Bowers is the next first round tight end, because the kid's a fucking freak. He's a running back this week.
Yeah, I mean, you say little first round, but he's probably maybe a top 5 pick if he carries on the way he's going. That's where his ceiling lies. It's going to be interesting when he comes through and whether there's any quarterbacks that are not around there, because if there aren't, yeah, sky's the limit as far. He could be the highest drafted tight end ever. Who knows? Maybe we might have the distinction of having that record taken away from us twice. Alright, move it on. A couple more games to go on the pick watch. Arkansas blown out by Mississippi State. Arkansas missing, I call him star quarterback, but no one else will, KJ Jefferson. He was out injured, although he will be returning this week. Arkansas are on a 3-game skid. Will Rogers, after his little blip when we bet on him a few weeks ago, he's back to his imperious best. 395 yards and 3 touchdowns in the air. I believe he's got the most passing yards of anybody in the entire country at this moment in time. Dylan Johnson, the running back, 100-yard day, couple of touchdowns as well on there. For Arkansas, not a lot went right with this one. Malik Hornsby did really well, the backup quarterback, in the circumstances. He rushed 114 yards on just 8 carries. He threw for 234 yards and a touchdown, although he tossed a couple of picks as well, but he did alright in relief. Jaden Hazelwood, the star wide receiver, he had a 100-yard day, had 113 yards on 3 catches, so that was good for him. But Arkansas' season has jumped off a cliff per se. Drew Sanders had another good game, 16 tackles. Bumper Pool, the safety, 14 tackles. Bumper Pool is the name to watch out for. He's having a really good season in that Arkansas secondary. Just not on this one, but not a lot of secondaries have a good day against Will Rogers, do they, Ryan?
Nope. I'd like to congratulate Will Rogers on setting the completions SEC record this weekend. He has now completed the most passes in SEC history.
Ooh.
Now, he's really weird. Like I say, he's one of the best college QBs I've seen over the few years, but I still don't think the air raid style will translate to NFL. I still wouldn't draft him because he is just hot prime that he's primed to bust. But right now, yeah, I think he's got like 2,411 yards passing leading the nation, which is ridiculous. He is carrying that offense because the running back, Quintavious Marks, is average. He ticks along at like 4 yards a carry, but the offense, the ground game, never gets it done. But Will Rogers is able to shred defense when he wants. Mississippi State, they never really get taken seriously. Like I say, because they're that heavy offense, like I say, they win and die by the sword passing. Their defense is pretty stingy though. Their defense does hurt teams and it does clamp them. I thought this was a big win because it was a trap game. They could have got upset, but it was, yeah. I never felt they had a chance without KJJ. I feel like Arkansas were always on the back foot without the starting quarterback, so this is just a blip they wanted to get out of the way with, unfortunately. They'll bounce back, I'm sure, but yeah. Mississippi State are out there to cause some scalps. They want to try cause some upsets this season, and the offense looks primed to do it.
Oh, I think even with KJ Jefferson, Arkansas would have lost by a good amount in this one. They're in a bad skid at the minute and they can't seem to get out of it. But fair play to Miss State. I mean, it's depressing. We say that air raid QBs can't take to the NFL, but I mean, who the hell did we just play this weekend who took us to pieces? The king of air raid from last season, Bailey Zappi. And I would probably say Will Rogers is better than Bailey Zappi, so God knows. Maybe we'll see Will Rogers for some nondescript team take us apart in year 3 of the rebuild and we get really annoyed on an episode of the pod again. So I shouldn't say that or it'll probably happen, but hey ho. Hello to Hank, who has joined us this evening as well. Hope you're doing alright there, Hank. A bit agitated, but bless him. Thank you for joining us. The upsetting one this week. I mean, we bet on them both. I did so very reluctantly. Ryan a little less so. College game day went to Kansas to watch the TCU Horned Frogs visit the Jayhawks in the battle of the unlikeliest unbeaten teams at this part of the season ever. And TCU managed to scrape out of this one 38-31 victors. Kansas, horrible day for them. They lost the unbeaten record on the national stage, and star quarterback Jalen Daniels was hurt in the second quarter. There were rumours coming out that he was out for the season. He then came on Twitter and said, that's the first I've heard about it, so I don't know what the hell's going on with him at the minute. I don't know whether he is out for the season or whether he's not out for the season, but a very sobering experience for Kansas in this one. They were behind early. They managed to fight their way back into it, but in the end, TCU proved just a little bit too elusive for them. I think all it was, TCU kicked a field goal in the first quarter. It was 7-3 at half time. They were neck and neck in the second half. They both scored 21 points in the third. They both scored a touchdown in the fourth, but it was TCU, just that one score they needed to get themselves over the line. Jason Bean, the backup quarterback for Kansas, came in 16 of 24, 262 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. So Kansas, from having no quarterback, have suddenly found a quarterback, and then his quarterback backup came in and dropped 4 touchdowns on TCU. So despite the injury, it was a good day for him there. But TCU, there's just something about them at the minute, and I know Max Duggan's still not convincing you there, right? But 308 yards, 3 touchdowns, just 1 pick. Rushed for 55 yards and a touchdown on the ground on just 9 carries. Kendre Miller, 88 yards and a touchdown. Quentin Johnston, 206 yards and a touchdown on the day for him. He had 14 receptions. The other 6 guys who had receptions on this team had 9 between them. So he was target number 1 for Max Duggan in here, and the defense was just able to pull out enough stops to keep Kansas at bay. But on the whole, right, I watched this. This was a highly enjoyable game, and probably at the end of the day, the right team just about won. But it was a great show for college game day going there.
Yeah, it was a big game for the Big 12 because these two teams the last few years have not been relevant. TCU have not been relevant for years since they had Kenny Hill at QB and they almost made the playoffs. Kansas haven't been relevated since like dinosaurs were around. So these two to put on a show was meant a lot. TCU did deserve to win in the end because, like I said, when I picked them, there's just too many weapons. Like I say, Quentin Johnson, some think is a first-round receiver. Kendre Miller, star freshman, sophomore. Zachary Evans, the former. Oh well, no, he's gone now. I mean, but Max Duggan is currently like having a kind of semi-Heisman season. I wouldn't put him that high, but some say he could be because of how efficient he is. Him and Hendon Hooker, I think it's down to 4 QBs that have not thrown in an interception. I believe they're two of the names, Hooker and Duggan. So they're firmly in that list there. And TCU, I suppose they're in a championship. They're in a title race now. They've firmly placed themselves in the hunt to make a title run. And they've not been able to say that for a long time. The offense in the first half of both teams was just non-existent. Like I said, they were feeling each other out. And it was the second half, just shooting match. Each time a team got the ball back, they scored. So it was always going to be the team that got the ball back last that probably had the best chance to win. That's kind of how it went, back and forth. So yeah, Kansas have lost more, like say, if I don't trust Bean to be the best QB all season. So I do hope that Daniels can come back. Otherwise, the season may end on a sour note. But yeah, the best team won on the day, but I think it was probably the best game, one of the best games Kansas have played probably like last decade.
Oh yeah, as an offensive spectacle, it was great. I mean, TCU averaged 7.2 yards of play. Kansas averaged over 8 yards per play on offense. I mean, you know, that's about as high as you can get on some of these. So both the offenses played their part in a really special game. Kansas had 580 yards of offense. TCU had 466. You know, there's a lot going on there. Defenses, there wasn't much. Just 2 tackles for loss on both sides. Just 1 sack on both sides. They have 1 interception each. But defenses were kind of irrelevant in this one. So, you know, fair play to TCU. They are still going. They are still unbeaten. The question now, though, is how far can they go? Because you're at the point of the season now where the pressure will just get ramped up on you. So let's see how they respond to that pressure now that there's going to be genuine bona fide attention on them, especially as they've just played on the national stage. Just finishing off the pick watch ones, with 2 teams who have no national attention on them whatsoever, because they've not been great this year. Oh well, one has, one hasn't. The Miami Hurricanes, North Carolina Tar Heels. UNC travelled to Miami. Me and Ryan both picked UNC for this one. They just won by the hair of their chinny chin chin. It was 24-27 to the Tar Heels. Miami threatened a late comeback in this one, but they fell just short. Again, this was a case of, well, they didn't run the ball. UNC's defense, we give it a lot of tap on here. We really are negative about it, but they kept the run game of Miami in check. Miami had 42 yards on 24 rushes, and that was it. Tyler Van Dyke, bless him, 42 completions on 57 passes, 496 yards, 3 touchdowns and an interception for once. Tyler had a very good day, but when your run game ain't doing a damn thing to help you, that just says everything. He had 8 guys had over 40 receiving yards this day. He spread the ball out here, there, and everywhere, but no matter what he did, he wasn't able to get his team back in the game, and when it really mattered, he threw a bad pick at the end of the game, and that was all she wrote. Drake May on the other side, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on a 309-yard day. Nothing really special from UNC. The run game was okay. It was averaging around just under 5 yards per carry area. Josh Downs still playing well. Another touchdown, another 69 yards there for him. But I don't know. UNC are 5-1, but I just, UNC are 5-1, but I still don't fully believe in them.
No, they're bad. Their schedule has been fortunate, and their defense has helped them. Like I say, this was the first bad week from May. He was poor, and I think Miami should have won that game. UNC pulled away, and in the second half, they just sat back and coasted and let Tyler Van Dyke shred them. And that comeback that they threatened, if they'd have been a bit more clinical in the second half, if they'd have had a sniff of a run game, they would have won that there. So, yeah, Tyler Van Dyke getting let down. No QB should have to attempt a plus 50 passes. That's bad. UNC are by far the worst five-win team in the nation. Can't trust them whatsoever. This was just two bad teams and one outlasting the other. They're absolute frauds to the fact they've got that record. Their schedule has been very kind. So, yeah, if you're a UNC fan, I wouldn't be getting any big head or anything.
No, I'm kind of with you. I'm usually pro UNC, but they weren't really good this week. So, I mean, they got the win, but Miami are not a good team this year, as we've seen. And yeah, TVD's got a lot of work to do to rebuild his reputation. I think he'll be spending another year in college before he decides to declare. When my Micro Mike's back in the building, hope you're doing all right. He says, "Hey man, hey to you. Everything alright in the chat?" Makes it sound like something went wrong. Hopefully everything's alright with the stream. Let me know if it's not, but everything seems to be working on my end. Pick watch. Ryan, you won this week. I think you're up to second in the standings. I think a few weeks ago you said this wasn't good enough, you had to do better, and you're doing better now, aren't you?
I mean, Washington were terrible. We finally seen the real Michael Penix Jr. Did you see his pick six? He threw a pass and he hit his lineman in the back of the helmet. It fell into the corner's hands and he just ran it in. Like, we won this game without Emory Jones. Emory Jones got knocked out cold. He went to slide, he took an elbow, a shoulder to the face, sparked out in the third quarter. Henry Bouquet came in. This is the guy I did not want to start this year because he's not experienced. Came in, he was nearly perfect. He had like 167 yards and a touchdown and saw the game out, like I say. And Weapon X, as I'm now calling him, Xavier Shepard, running the show again, receiving and rushing touchdowns. One of the best packs easily in the Pac-12. But this game just highlighted how inconsistent and vulnerable the Pac-12 is. We had no right to be beating Washington, let alone scoring 45 points. But maybe this head coach, this interim coach, could be the guy. I have got no interest whatsoever in Matt Rule. But I think he was absolutely elated after the game and everyone was giving him so much love. I think he's put himself potentially in the job to keep it. But knowing our front office will go make some stupid NFL hire because it's fancy and it'll just tear it all down again. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with Emory Jones. I don't know if he got a concussion or if he got checked out or if he'll be back this week. So he could be rolling with Henry Bouquet this week too.
And another 130 yards and 2 touchdowns for Valladay. He continues to just smoke everyone before him. I think he's going to...
Yeah, no one stopped him so far.
No. I think... What is he? Have you got him for more than a year, or is it just this year that they've got him?
I think he's got eligibility, but I think this is his best year to go in the NFL draft. He's built some real good numbers up in the last few years.
Yeah.
I think that's why he came here. He knew the team wasn't going to be good, but he knew he could get national attention, and he's getting a lot of it.
Yeah, agreed. Right, so other games that we had on there to mention. We asked whether Wake Forest could banish the curse of the game with Army last year when they gave up nearly 60 points to them. Well, they did. Wake Forest won 45-10. Really put Army away this season, and Hartman's back in his groove again. He's slowly moving his way up the quarterback hierarchy again this year after missing those first few games, isn't he?
Yeah, A.T. Perry's got his best friend back again. I think he had 2 touchdowns and like another 110 yards. So their draft stock seems kind of dependent on one another. One can't really work without the other. And it was weird, Army, because Army had a 100-yard receiver and they had like 4 rushes with like more than 40 yards. But they only scored 10 points. They were terrible in the red zone, but they put up some yardage. That Wake Forest defense gave up quite a lot of yards. and it didn't have that many turnovers either. But they just got completely shut out when it mattered. So Wake Forest, I was impressed by their defence for once. And I don't think I've said that for about 2 years.
No, and you can't just say, oh, well, it's a service team, it doesn't really matter. Well, like I said, they
ran the ball hard.
They gave up nearly 60 points to them last year, so that is a marked improvement in just 12 months against a team that's not that much different. Army are a tough team to beat, and they did it quite comfortably. So, fair play to him, and Sam Hartman's stock is going up, but quarterbacks whose stock are not going up. A game here where one of them didn't actually play, but the South Carolina Gamecocks took down the Kentucky Wildcats 24-14. Will Levis did not play in this one. He is injured at the moment, which is no good for him, but it doesn't help him if his Kentucky team is losing games. They're 4-2 on the season. South Carolina 4-2 on the season. Spencer Rattler looked poor. He was 14 of 19, 177 yards, a touchdown and an interception. I know Levis didn't play, but him, Rattler, neither of them are doing anything really this year to justify any kind of draft hype at the minute, are they?
No, I think Will Levis is on like 5 set touchdowns for like 7 interceptions. Before the season, everyone were higher than him. Most people still think he's going in like the top 10. I think pretty much everyone is convinced that even the Lions could take him. He seems like one of the nation's darlings or sweethearts. Unless he does absolutely terribly, I don't think his draft stock's going to fall. I think everyone seems enamoured with him. And I think if we were there at like 7, the Lions would probably be interested in taking him. So yeah, Chris Rodriguez got the job done on the ground. He had his first big game since coming back. But yeah, I don't know how bad Will Levis has to play for him to fall out the first round. It seems a bizarre one.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'd be 100% okay taking Hendon Hooker over Will Levis, and I never thought I'd say that when the season began, but the way the two are playing, it's a no contest, it's a no-brainer for me at this moment
Anthony
in time.
Richardson as well, his height has dropped off too.
Oh yeah.
Anthony Richardson doesn't look great either.
He needs another year. TVD and Richardson need another year in college after this. Neither of them should consider declaring this year, because I don't think they're going to get anywhere near the amount of love that they want. Who else have we got in here? Oh, well, I asked you the question a few weeks back about whether App State are frauds or not. Well, I think we can safely say they're frauds now. Beaten 36-24 by Texas State. They keep on losing. Chase Bryce and co. They were entertaining for a little while, Ryan, but their true colours have shone now. They ain't challenging for a Sun Belt conference this season.
No, their offense has dropped off. Cameron Peoples and Chase Bryce, they were slicing and dicing for the first few 3-4 weeks of the season, but the offense has slowed down, and that defense that was so stingy that took down A&M has just disappeared. So yeah, they are limping, and it's bad actually, because I'm sad, because I thought first few weeks of the season they're going to be a real Sun Belt challenger. Like I say, they're going to that statement A&M win. They just seem drunk. They just seem hungover after that. It's just been 2 poor losses after that. So there's been a few teams actually that have, like Duke, back-to-back losses as well. Everything I said about Riley Leonard, and now they've dropped 2 as well. So a lot of teams have got a bit big for the boots at the start of the season, and they've now been brought back down to reality.
And I think maybe amongst that we can include the Air Force Falcons. We've been blowing their trumpet for the MWC, for the Mountain West this year. They got beaten by Utah State this week, who've been worse than useless. They got beaten 34-27. It was just 1 score, but I mean, Utah State have been bad. Cooper Lagas seems to have got that quarterback job sewn up now. He played this entire game. There's no sign of Logan Bonner anywhere. I don't know if he's still injured, but I mean, I guess even if he's not, he's probably not going to get his job back at this rate. He threw for 2 touchdowns. He ran 1 touchdown in. Calvin Tyler got over 100 yards on the ground. And for poor Air Force, I mean, Brad Roberts, he's doing everything he can at running back. He had another 140 yards. He had another touchdown. Zeke Daniels is doing okay at quarterback, but that defense is not what I kind of thought it would be. They're 4-2 now, and the Mountain West is. I don't even know anymore. I think you just pick names out of a hat, and that'll be the Mountain West championship game at this rate.
Yeah, they're still one of the strong contenders, but a conference loss, like I say, it's a Mountain West rival. and they weigh heavily on your schedule. So if they feel like if they lose a tiebreaker at the end of the season, this will be the game they look back on and be really hurt. Like I say, Air Force usually have a really tight, stingy, well-run defense. The offense is scoring points. The offense is well primed. Zeke Daniels is a good dual threat guy. Brad Roberts has been running the ball hard for years, but the defense is just leaky. Whenever they come up against someone that knows how to throw the ball, it just once again just kind of fall apart.
Yeah. They did fall apart in this one. It's a shame for them. And speaking of falling apart, I know this is one of the bigger games this weekend. I've kind of left it for a little bit, but the Red River rivalry was this weekend. Oklahoma and Texas. I mentioned at the start of the show that Oklahoma went missing in this one. 49-0. Texas won by in this, so thank you, Oklahoma. The Lions weren't the worst team to get blown out this weekend. We at least kept our scoreline a little bit more respectable than yours did, but I mean, did you think that they'd miss Dylan Gabriel just this much? Oklahoma, a team of their power, of their, the stature, they should be able to bring guys in. For example, they had 5 guys attempt to pass in this game. So Davis Bevel, the backup, he was 6 of 12, 38 yards and 1 interception. Then Eric Gray, who I believe is the wide receiver, he attempted 2 passes. Michael Turk, Marcus Major, Nick Evers, 5 of them attempted passes in this one. They had 7 guys try and run the football, and they only had 6 guys who got a reception in this one. And the defense, you know what, you give up 49 points and get shut out. Your defense does not get a mention. As for Texas, Quinn Ewers, Bijan Robinson absolutely tore them to shreds. Bijan's lessons of hanging on to the football while he's going around college seem to have worked. He had 130 yards, a couple of touchdowns. Quinn Ewers threw 4 touchdown passes. I mean, good God, did you think Oklahoma would miss Dylan Gabriel this much? And do you reckon that he's not playing because he's trying to get back in the portal again and get away from there?
I don't even know if he'd get in the portal now. I don't know if he'd be picked up. I don't know how much he's hardly got any eligibility left. So, but there's something wrong with Oklahoma. Something on the field, it's something off the field. That was the first time I think they got shut out in I think it was 311 games. I read somewhere their first ever shutout. Like I say, the biggest loss of margin they've ever had, at minus 49. They broke historic records with that loss, and something's not right there. This was bigger than Dylan Gabriel. This was a loss of confidence. It was poor coaching. It was a cataclysm of a lot of things. And like I say, coming off that loss to TCU, following up, this is 2 weeks of maybe Oklahoma's worst 2 weeks for decades. These are very telling. That program is in a really bad place right now. And even if Dylan Gabriel comes back, I don't know what happens, but I don't know where they go from here. Texas, Quinn Ewers looks like the guy. I think he looks like the guy that could be the future if his heart's really in it and they provide him with weapons. Texas can go places, even when they lose Bijan. Yeah, this was the most disappointing game of the weekend. I didn't enjoy it. It was just ugly, and there's a lot going wrong there.
And I don't think it says much for Texas either, does it? I mean, you can't take away the fact that they've destroyed them and won by 49 points, but it kind of feels like it's got an asterisk next to it, doesn't it? Rather, it's not showing how good Texas are so much as how bad Oklahoma are.
Yeah, it was that one-sided, like I say. They helped them beat themselves. Their heads just dropped instantly. And they scraped the bottom of the play, but like I say, I think Eric Gray, is a running back, like I say, but to attempt 2 passes, so that was 2 trick plays. I think they were flea flickers or odd reverses. Yeah. They tried everything they had in the book to try and get offense going. And I don't know why General Booty didn't play. Why do you have people that is not...
I know why, and this is going to really upset that fan man. He says in the chat, so where's Booty? So, I hate to say this, that fan man, but...
Was he not dressed?
No, General Booty was prepped and ready to go this week. They said he was going to get game time in this if he went bad, but he took a knock in training last week. So he was dressed on the day, but he wasn't 100% fit. And when they went down so far so quickly, the coach decided that he didn't want to put him in and risk injuring him in a blowout loss where he wasn't going to affect it.
Do you believe that? That sounds fishy.
I don't. He was prepped. He was prepped and ready. They said during the week he was going to get game time if Bevel didn't do very well, but he had a knock. But the belief is that if he comes in and he's not, if I think they're going to give the backup another go. But if Oklahoma play bad next week, you will see General Booty on the field. So, Det Fan Man, this dream might be a little bit closer to reality. They are prepping him for game time. He is playing with the firsts and getting reps there. So, hopefully, next week, we can celebrate the debut of General Booty. We will see with that one, but hugely disappointing weekend for Oklahoma. You mentioned Duke. They lost in overtime to Georgia Tech, 23-20. Bad loss there. And then I saved these for last because I wanted to save the worst loss of the week for very last. Memphis at Houston. Memphis 32, Houston 33 with 1 minute 40 to go in this game. Memphis were two scores clear in this one. All they had to do was get one stop or get back a kick, and they didn't. Houston got a touchdown. They then attempted the onside kick. They won the onside kick back. They drove down with no time at all left and got another touchdown. And Memphis, hang your heads in shame, because Houston had done nothing in this game up to this point to deserve that win, and they threw it down the drain. Right, this was quite an unbelievable collapse so late in the game.
Yeah, this is Houston that's coming off a bad loss. This is Houston that's already been dragged into overtime twice because they're poor finishers of games and they don't know how to do it at the end. And Memphis really shit the bed. We saw some prime Clayton Tune in that 2-minute drill out there looking like Stafford, just moving the ball out, hitting the sidelines, getting in position. That was a gritty win, but they needed that. But Memphis, they really let that one slide. Like I say, Houston have been bad this season, so they'll be reeling after that one. Oh
yeah. I don't know where Memphis go from this one. It is not a great look on them. That's a really tough one to take. And now everyone's sort of harping up Clayton Tune again. It's just no, go back and watch his last 3 or 4 games. Those 2 drives do not deserve him redemption. He's been really, really bad. Who's the other ones I mentioned? A&M nearly upset Alabama again. Alabama snuck away with this one. Bryce Young is injured. He's not playing. It was Jalen Milroe who was playing for them. He threw 3 touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs, another 154 yards. He's staking his claim for running back 1 at the moment. He's carrying this team while Bryce Young's out at the moment. Yeah,
firmly in one of the top 3 or 4 Heisman candidates so far. Perfect time from a transfer. Like I say, and he's making an instant. Pick the perfect team. They've got the pro offensive line, they've got the best scheme, and he's got all the talent. So it's a marriage made in heaven. He's draft stock, whether he goes this year or next year, he's going to run the best backs coming out. So yeah, he's got a very good chance to win the Heisman.
And don't you just think that Alabama have got so lucky playing Texas teams this year? Quinn Ewers gets knocked out the first game when they're playing the Longhorns, and if he'd have stayed in that game fully, you could have seen them winning that. They probably should have won that. And then in this one, where Texas A&M...
Max Johnson broke his hand, didn't he?
Yeah, Texas A&M driving to win this. They're against Haynes King all day. And that... I've seen that last throw that's made, to end the game, where it's what is he, about 3 or 4 yards out? He drops back and the guy runs an out route short of the end zone. It's what the hell are you doing? It's what kind of play is that to end the game? You're giving the DB a chance just to shove him out of play, and you're not even get it. It was like the Florida State one. I just don't get the play called. It was tough execution for a backup QB, and I believe it's a freshman wide receiver who was aiming at, and he runs an out route short of the end zone. I don't get it. What goes through these coaches' heads when they're making decisions like this?
Like you say, miscommunication. Like you say, he took the right read. He was probably designed to take that read, but I imagine the receiver must have been scared, taking a short route that was too shallow, and like you say, caught it. Never stood a chance of getting there. Like I said, DB came downhill, just gave him a thump, and that was that.
I don't know. It's just, it feels like Alabama have got so. If either of those teams that have had a half decent QB towards the end of those games, Alabama could be a 2-loss team by now. They really could be a 2-loss team.
Only Ohio State so far have basically comfortably beaten everyone. The schedule's not been that hard, but they've kind of taken care of business nearly every week, I suppose.
This is stupid. They're off. I mean, I think they've got like 43 odd. How many touchdowns they got? They got like 43 odd touchdowns on the year already. I think the next team has like 33. It's stupid how good that offense is, but I still don't trust CJ Stroud yet. I'm still going to live and die by this. I just think he's got an embarrassment of riches there that make his job so easy. But hey ho, we'll see. Is there any other results you want to pick up from week 6 before we move on?
Yeah. Oregon, their offense is firing. Bo Nix, like he's putting up some big numbers. I don't trust him still, but he is probably one of the best rushing QBs in the nation. He is one of the fastest QBs I've seen. When he gets the ball and rushes, he absolutely dices teams.
Was that on your end? Did something just bang?
No,
I
don't think so.
Oh, well, was it not on Twitch? Oh, I don't know. I heard something weird. So yeah, I saw an interesting stat about them the other day. You know how many times he's been sacked this season? 1. Through 6 games, he's been sacked once or 5. It's either 5 or 6 games. They've got the best, rate in terms of sacks given. 1. I mean, I bet he never got that at Auburn. It probably felt like at least 3 or 4 a week there. So that could explain why he's doing so well, because he's not getting pressured in the pocket that much, or he's throwing it early, whatever. But yeah. He is having a good season, so it'll be interesting to see what happens if they get under a bit more pressure, but yeah, we'll see. So that is everything for week 6. A lot of interesting results gone on there. When it comes to next week, because there's been a few conference games now, next week we'll break down the conferences a bit, where the teams are, who's looking like contenders and that, because we'll have enough evidence by then to suggest of which teams are doing well and which teams are not. So let's move it on. So we're going to break this up this week. Usually we go straight into the previews, but we've got one last lot of players to take a look at. Before we do that, we said we were going to have a look at safeties today. So just like with the kickers, I've got a few lined up here who I want to go through. So, I mean, I think it's safe to say, right, the top of this year's safety class has underwhelmed a little bit so far, let's say. So you've got the Arkansas safety, Jalen Catalon. He was a top 5 prospect this year. He's been knocked out with his 2nd season-ending injury in a row, which has just basically tanked his draft stock. He's probably going to have to come back if he's got any more eligibility to show that he can stay healthy and get a full season under his belt. But that's really bad from him. Brandon Joseph at Notre Dame has been bad. You know, the thing we know him most for this year is injuring Jackson Smith and Jigba, but outside of that, he has not filled those boots left behind by Kyle Hamilton really well at all. So he's been struggling. And Jordan Battle, he's been doing all right at Alabama, but Alabama have negative turnover play this year. You think of Alabama as a team who, get interceptions, get fumbles, turn the ball over, all that. They've actually given the ball away more than they've got it this year. That team's been struggling to create turnovers, the safeties especially in that group there. I mean, just as a whole, the safety market's a really difficult one to read for the draft this year, because the guys at the top have struggled, so you've got to kind of look a little bit further down the list to see the guys doing well this year.
Yeah, a lot of the top safeties in the nation this year are not even eligible. Look like Malachi Starks, like the star freshman at Georgia. There's a lot of young guys out there that just aren't ready for the draft yet. And Jordan Battle, he chose to come back. He could have gone last year. Chose to come back because of that easy scheme. It kind of just plays into his hands. And he's just too safe, isn't it? He just doesn't put up numbers. He doesn't make huge plays, but he wins rings because he's part of a very strong unit. And it's just, I'm not sold on him. Like, there was talk that he could be a first-round safety. I'm just not buying it. I just haven't seen it from him. I know it's there and all the size and everything's there, but he's just not come together on the field. I'm now convinced Brandon Joseph should have stayed at Northwestern as well. I think the transfer is a bad idea. I think Northwestern aren't bad, but I feel like he probably would have flourished if he just stayed.
Do you think it's a case of he's not actually that good and he stood out in a bad Northwestern side, or he's good but he's not Notre Dame good?
I think he's good, but I also think like he's not Kyle Hamilton. I think I've worked that out now. He is just not that replacement. No one's Kyle Hamilton. He was that one guy that you could trust. I don't think Brandon Joseph, from what I've seen, is a true single high safety. I feel like if you ask him to be a general and just cover the whole field himself, he's probably going to get caught out. And like I said, we've seen it a lot this year because teams have just passed all over Notre Dame.
Yeah, and run on them. And you expect the run support to be good, but it's struggled as well. So yeah, there's a lot of sort of the prospects who you thought might be going at the top this year are struggling. So let's take a look at a few of the guys who are impressing this year and maybe look a bit better. I've got a few guys here, right? I don't know if you've got some guys as well.
Yeah, I've got three.
Well, we've not synced here either, so we might have the same. So I'll go first with this one. So I'm going to stay in the SEC. There's some good safety talent around this year. The first guy I've got here is Jalen Carleys. He's from Missouri. He's 6'3", 204 pounds. This guy, I'm really excited about him here. So first off, his special teams play. He's an elite special teams player. He fits in there instantly from day one. That's what you want from your guys who are coming in from the draft. But this guy's an instinctive safety. So he's got 5 interceptions since the start of last season. It's due to a high level of intelligence he has that allows him to jump routes. He can read deflections, sort of mop up, get some of those big plays in there. The play speed with him is really good, but it's his closing speed. It is insane. Once he's got a target lined up, if he sees a running back with the ball or a receiver gets the ball, he's on him before they've got a chance to counter. I've rarely seen closing speed like it. It's really amazing. He plays hard, he hits hard. So last year when they were playing Kentucky, he forced a fumble out of Chris Rodriguez. He was probably the best running back in the SEC last year on a right roll. So he came up against him one-on-one on Mizzou's own 3-yard line. It looked like for all the world he was going to run it in for a touchdown. Carleys hit him so hard, he hit him low, he hit him hard, the ball just popped right out his hands. It rolled into the end zone. Mizzou recovered it in their own end zone. It was a wonderful one-on-one tackle. You just see so many examples of this. The tackling's hard, but it's technically sound. He's playing in the SEC, so the level of competition is really high as well. He's making plays against legitimate opposition week in, week out, and he's on one of the sides in the conference that are not great. So he's going to get a lot of tests thrown at him, and he's done it so far. And really, like I say, at 6'3", 204 pounds, he's got the size you want at the next level as well. So Jalen Carleys, the Missouri safety, keep a very, very close eye on him because he is having a really good year and could really be up in the conversation come the end of the year. And boy, oh boy, the Lions need one. Ryan, who have you got?
I've got Daniel Scott, safety from the California Golden Bears, a team in the Pac-12 that, to be kind to them, are totally irrelevant. For a few years now, good, bad, who knows, no one pays any attention. He's played for nearly 4 or 5 years. His old running mate, Ashton Davis, was drafted by the Jets. He's about 6'2", about 90 kilos. In the last 2 years, he's got 110 tackles, 3 passes defended, sack, forced fumble, 5 interceptions, and a touchdown. So he's more of a free safety than he is a strong safety, but he is good with the ball, and he's got those good hand-eye coordination, like I say, 5 picks in the last 2 years. He is a leader on a defense that has not been great. Cal have not won many games in recent years, and they've been one of the outsiders, one of the sleeper teams in the Pac-12 that no one's paid much attention to. But he's strong, he's physical, to play free safety, but he's willing to come up into the box and help him. And he's got a good frame. Like I say, he's got some length to that 6'2" frame. I feel like he's someone that could get a bit of love in the middle rounds because he's had production. He's been a 5-year starter. I think he's had 2 of them at Cal before there. So I think he's someone that, this class for me is not great, but he's someone I think reliable and dependable, and he's going to be probably a special teamer at first before a backup, but he has got production and he's got a bit of strength about him. So could be that kind of project you take in the later rounds.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of the guys this year maybe more developmental types with a few big gems in there. So, agreed. Right, my second guy I've got Kenny Logan Jr. He is from Kansas. Oh, have you got him?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I left the other guy I've got till last because I thought you were likely to have the other guy first. But hey, great minds think alike. We can chat about him. So Kenny Logan Jr. Behind the guy I'm going to talk about in a minute, he's probably the second best tackling safety in this class. It's one of his standout features. The technique is clean, the power is hard. He just tackles so seamlessly well. The frame gives him the ability. He's like a mobile fridge, but very agile, very tough. He comes downhill, he hits with a hell of a lot of power. This guy does. Like so many times I was looking at this and I kind of winced visibly at some of these hits, and I'm just watching this. He's got good ball skills, he's got 4 interceptions and 12 pass breakups to his name, so he knows where the ball is, he gets there. He was on a showcase against TCU this weekend. If you want to watch him a little bit, go watch that game. He forced a fumble, he recovered another fumble, and he made a couple of good stops in the red zone as well when one-on-one with TCU players. And that he's got special teams experience as well. This is probably out of the 3 the one who might take the most development here, but he's got everything you want from a safety in this class. What have you seen from him, Ryan?
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, he's not the biggest. Like I said, he's 6 foot, but he's stocky, innit? Like you said, he has got a bit of weight and muscle behind him. I think of all the people I've listed, he's best in the box. Like you say, I trust him to play strong safety. He's a good tackler. He tackles hard. Like I said, but still, 3 forced fumbles as well in the last 3 years. He gets a forced fumble. He's had 10 passes defended, the picks as well. So he's got a good nose for the ball, but he's not afraid to get dirty. Like a lot of safeties don't want to do the dirty work. They don't want to come down into the box. They don't want to stack against the run team. He's willing to put his head in there, and he's punches the ball out well as well. He's got a nice nose for the ball, so he works better probably at that mid to medium range. I wouldn't put him at... He can play a 3 high if you want him to, but I feel like he'll do his best work where kind of like a Buda Baker, a bit like a Deshaun Elliott, strong safety that'll stick well in the box. But like I say, can fake and drop into coverage and will get you interceptions as well. He's someone that you write off and you don't look at him as super athletic, but can make the good time catch and track the ball nicely.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like you say, he targets the ball. That fumble he got at the weekend, it was from behind. He managed to smack it right out the TCU receiver's arms. It was really, really good play from him, always looking to go for the ball. So, yeah, I'm impressed with him. And I'm with you. I think I've focused on mainly physical guys in this one because we need a physical safety. Someone who, when he hits you, he puts you down. You want a running back who's really going to hurt after getting hit by a guy running downhill on him, and we've not had that in some time. So that's our first 2. So, number 3, does he happen to be from Boise State?
No, I know who you mean. I know he's from JR, but I didn't pick him. No.
I thought you were going to have him, so I thought this might be the one. So, right, my third guy, JL Skinner. I was asked about him actually on the after you left the main podcast on Monday. Me and Matt hung around for a bit, and people started asking college questions. Someone mentioned him actually, so I specifically went and watched his tape. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, did I get excited! He is 6'4", 218 pounds. He has rare physical traits. This is a Kyle Hamilton-esque build, but whereas Kyle Hamilton's sort of about the intelligence of the game, the ball hawkishness about it, this guy is like the physical version of him. He hits like a freight train. There are so many examples on tape where I'm sat there going, literally, ouch, because of how hard he runs downhill, attacks ball carriers. I mean, some of the hits, Rye, that he puts on are brutal. It's as close to contact with the helmet to helmet as you can get, but he doesn't cause a foul because he just seems to... He seems to know what's legal and what's not legal, and he just pushes those lines, and he hits you as hard as he can. And so many guys he's left lying on the field. He's an explosive playmaker. He doesn't take rubbish from anybody. Anyone gets in his face, he will give it back as good as he gets. But like I say, it's controlled aggression. It's not over the top and undisciplined. It's very controlled, very rugged. Really what you want here. He's got swag on the field, but he's actually very humble off it. I've listened to some of his interviews. He is a very level-headed, grounded kid. He's exactly the sort of personality that you want in your team. On the field, he's the best. Off the field, you know, he's very humble, but I mean, Christ, right? This guy hits like I've not seen really this from a safety from a while. The way he hits makes you wince, but it's so nice to watch.
Yeah, he is the leader on that defense. Boise State right now are in a big transition period, and they've had to rely on him very heavily. And like I say, he lives by the sword, he dies by the sword. He gives up receptions, but then he forces fumbles. A guy will catch a guy, will turn around, and he will get train wrecked. He'll run right through them, and the ball will pop out. Like you say, he knows what he's best at. If he lets them catch the ball, he just goes right in and wins it out. Like you say, he pops it out, or he lights them up. He makes people regret trying to come across his zone. Like you say, he's a great zone guy because people come through, and he doesn't just let them. He makes them pay a toll if they want to come through. Like I said, if they want to try get the ball, makes you pay for it. He's going to get. He might get you penalties, but he's also going to win you get fumbles. He's going to force fumbles. He's going to light guys up. Very sound tackler, and for this safety class in general, one of the biggest and strongest frames to be properly pro ready. He's got the size, the speed, he's got muscle. You don't need to have a lot to that frame, so it'll all be just about how eloquent he can move it. At the combine, he could do really well because he's got the size and speed. Just needs to show like that agility.
Yeah, he lives and dies by his coverage skills this year. I think that's the one thing holding him back to being a true superstar at the minute. The coverage is the issue, and but if you can find him a team where you've got a good coverage safety with him and you let him go and do the dirty work, you will create a hell of a tandem with somebody. I mean, I can't say nothing but good about this guy. J.L. Skinner, Boise State, go watch him. Guy hits like a truck and moves very gracefully, and go and watch some of his tackling. It's insane. Right, finishing off, Ryan, your third safety. Who have we got?
This guy's intriguing because he's playing linebacker, but he was recruited. He was a high school safety, and I think he'll play safety in the NFL. He's only 6'2" and like 100 kilos. I don't think he's big enough to play linebacker in the NFL. It's Max Tooley from BYU. Like I say, with the big blonde quiff.
Yeah. In
2 years, so this year, last year, 110 tackles, 4 passes defended, 2 sacks, 4 interceptions, 3 of those interceptions, and now he's got 2 pick sixes as well, just this year alone. He is ridiculous in coverage. Like I say, he's got stupidly long arms to say he's not that heavy or big. You can tell he's a safety. His hand-eye coordination, when the ball's up in the air or it's batted down, he sniffs it out. Like I say, and when he finishes, he's got the speed to get away from guys and looks for the end zone. And he's had 2 massive plays this year. He's been one of the reasons they've won games. He started slow. I think on his first year, I think he went on missionary, being the Marlon BYU, so he didn't play. Second year, slow started. Last 2 years, on a wrecking path. He might gain muscle, but I think he will be a hybrid and probably play safety at next level. If he's got any sense, I think this will be the year he declares, because he'll be coming off some big old tape. He's putting some big numbers up, and he's everywhere. He is in everything good they do on the field, and he's got a great frame, and he's super physical. But the hawking, the ball skills, the control, the hands as well. Like I say, he could be a ball hawk at the next level, and he lives to drop in at coverage. He will play run support if you ask him to. But if you ask him to come up to line and drop in coverage, he'll pick quarterbacks off with ease, because they just underestimate him.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of him on that BYU defense. I agree. I think he'll go back to safety as well. So it'll be interesting to see how he's profiled going into the draft this year, whether they class him as a linebacker or a safety. But I agree, a lot of potential there. So that is our look on safeties. You've got 3 from each of us. Well, technically 5 altogether, because we've got 1 of the same, but go and check those guys out. Definitely some worthy prospects in the draft at safety this year, and the Lions need one, boy oh boy. Right, we'll move on to our final segment of the day, which is our preview for Week 7. Some really big games coming up as usual. We're going to go through the pick watch fixtures first. We're going to put our picks on the line so that everyone knows what we're going with this weekend, and then we'll talk about any other fixtures that take our fancy in this weekend going forward, and there are quite a few of them. So let's go straight in there. So the Week 7 preview. So the first one we've got on the slate, Ryan, this is an all Big 12 showdown. Baylor at West Virginia. Baylor favoured by 3.5 points. This is a showdown between two top 30 scoring offences. West Virginia ranked 23rd. They score 38.2 points per game on average. Baylor are right behind in 26th. They average 37.4 points per game, so only 0.8 per game difference. Defense, much different story. Baylor giving up 20.6 points a game. They rank 37th nationally in scoring defense. West Virginia all the way down in 92nd, giving up 29.6 points per game on average, a full 9 points a game more than Baylor do. West Virginia, they are 2-3 on the season. They've lost to Pittsburgh, Kansas and Texas. They've beaten Towson and Virginia Tech. They are coming off a bye. Baylor 3-2. They've lost to BYU and Oklahoma State. They've beaten Albany, Texas State and Iowa State. They are also coming off a bye, so both teams going to be fresh in this one. But on paper, it favours Baylor. But we know in the Big 12, home advantage counts for a lot more than usual here. Virginia Tech managed to get a lot of wins at home that they really should not do. Baylor at West Virginia, Ryan. Prediction for this one?
This is the hardest game, I think, on the slate. They've beaten 5 bad teams between them, and every good team they've played, they've lost to. Like, we just named them all. They are terrible. But I saw this Baylor team give Oklahoma State a lot of trouble. Oklahoma State could not put them away because Baylor can score and Baylor can score quickly. I'm going to take Baylor from what I've seen. Like they showed some spunk against OK State, and that offense is good. I don't trust their defense whatsoever, so this one is going to be close. But yeah, I trust their defense more than trust the West Virginia defense.
Yeah, see, a tough one. I like the JT Daniels offense at West Virginia, and you saw in the backyard brawl in the first game that West Virginia defensive line on its day can be really damn good, and it can shift a game in your favour. And Baylor, they've got in Bohannon. Is it Bohannon there? It's not Bohannon, it's the other one, isn't it? Chapin's there. So if that West Virginia defensive line can get at Chapin, I see them causing turnovers. They're on their home ground. I'm going to take West Virginia, but I would not be surprised in the slightest if they lost. I'm with you. It's one of the hardest games this slate. So Ryan is going Baylor. I am going West Virginia. A split right off the bat. Now, the very interesting one here, Ryan. All SEC showdown between two unbeaten sides who field two of the nation's top 5 scoring offenses. Of course, I'm talking Alabama, the Crimson Tide, at Tennessee, the Volunteers. So Tennessee and Hendon Hooker, they have been tearing it up. They are the number 2 ranked scoring offense in the country. They average 46.8 points per game and have smashed in 30 touchdowns in just 5 games. Defensively, they are averaging less than 18 points per game given up, with just 11 touchdowns given up in 5 games. They do give up a lot of yardage. It's just under 400 yards per game, which ranks 82nd nationally though. So, sort of passing offense is a little bit of an issue for them. Hendon Hooker, he has not thrown a pick all season. He's got 10 touchdown passes, has a 70% completion rating. He is having a season and a half. Alabama, they've got the 5th best scoring offense in the country. They average 44.3 points per game. They are giving up just a measly 12.5 points per game, with just 7 touchdowns given up in 6 games. However, they've struggled in games this year. They should have lost to Texas. They struggled to beat a bad A&M side who they probably should have lost to, and they lost because neither of these sides had a good QB to drag them over the line. Tennessee do. And Bryce Young is still dinged up. He is not cleared to play this weekend as of yet. We don't know the status of him. But even if he is, he's going to be playing hurt. And this Tennessee D-line can bring the pressure when they want to. He's not played since the Arkansas game. So Jalen Monroe may get another start. However, Will Anderson, the cream of our eye at the moment as we start looking towards the draft, the guy I want more than anything, he's playing like a number 1 pick. He's got 10 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, and a pick 6 already this season. He is tearing stuff up. Ryan, Alabama at Tennessee. What do you got with this one?
See, without knowing the QB, it's hard. I want to stay Tennessee, but can they stop Jahmyr Gibbs? I don't think so. That is the thing. Like, say, Alabama will not win this game passing. Alabama will not win the national title this year just throwing the ball. It just won't work because, for me, they just lack the receivers this year. This will be the week. I'm going to take Alabama. I think Hendon Hooker might have a turnover this year. I think this will be the game this season where Hendon Hooker struggles. And I reckon Jahmyr Gibbs, the monster game.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not a 7.5 point swing for the roadside. I don't think it doesn't feel
Tennessee
like that.
Can win.
Yeah,
I don't feel confident enough.
That's it. It's how legit do you think they are? I mean, you see so many upstart SEC sides go and play Alabama and just get blown out the water like they're nothing, and it's like, oh, kind of everything we thought about them was not right, and it's like, are they legitimate enough this year? Even with Bryce will be dinged up if he plays. It's on the road. It's at the Volunteers.
If you don't play, I'll say Tennessee will win. But I can't say that right now, so...
No.
If I knew, it'd make the decision easier, but...
I know, I've got to stop going with my heart. I've got to go with my head. I'm going to say Alabama, but I want Tennessee to win, let's say. I will quite happily throw this pick away if Tennessee wins. So Alabama sweep, but very reluctantly. Okay, moving on. All Big Ten action now, and 2 undefeated teams. One who we've not spoken about much this year, Penn State at Michigan. Michigan's 7-point favourites for this one. Michigan finally have to play a team that can fight back after their scrub schedule so far this year, and I will not hear anything about it. It's been one of the worst schedules ever in terms of how easy it has been for them. So Michigan, they have the number 6 ranked scoring offense in the country. They're averaging 43 points a game. They've got 33 touchdowns in 6 games. They've got the 5th ranked defense in the country, giving up a paltry 11 points per game. But I'm just going to say there's a big-ass asterisk next to that because of the schedule. They have not been playing good teams at all, so there's no wonder these results are so high at this moment in time. However, as much shade as I throw at them, I will say Blake Corum has been really good. He is one of the best running backs in the nation at this moment in time. He's 2nd in the country in rushing touchdowns. I believe he's got 11 this season. They've beaten Colorado State, Hawaii, Yukon, Maryland, Iowa, and Indiana. Penn State, they are also unbeaten. They've gone through Purdue, Ohio, Auburn, Central Michigan, and Northwestern. 37th in scoring offense, 34.5 points per game, but they do seem to have fixed their long-standing issue at running back. Freshman Nick Singleton, he has exploded onto the college scene this year. He's running at 7.3 yards per carry. He's got 5 touchdowns on the season already. He wasn't a starter to begin the season with either, so although the amounts might seem paltry, because he wasn't a starter, they're actually really good. The Nittany Lions, they're known for their defense. This year is no different. They did take a walloping week 1 against Purdue. They gave up 31 points, but that Purdue offense is really good. They've not given up more than 15 points in a game in the 4 fixtures since then. The run defense, it's number 5 in the country. So the battle between Blake Corum and this run defense could be the sword that either team lives or dies upon. 7-point favourites, Ryan. Michigan, what do you think with this one? This is going to be the first big test. I mean, Penn State's schedule ain't been that much better, but they seem to have fixed some of the problems that have plagued them in years. Clifford's playing better, Singleton's playing really well. Can they pull off an upset?
See, Clifford's playing better, but I think I saw on Twitter that last year, through 6 games, Michigan had like 12 sacks. They've got like 24 sacks on the first. They're up properly firing. I think they can get to Sean Clifford. This will be the first team, I think, that gets to Sean Clifford and causes him problems. But like say they've had a cakewalk schedule. This is hard. The winner of this could make the title. This could be the game that decides which one loses and which one can't make it.
And it's the maze out, so big atmosphere going in there.
I'm gonna go with Penn State. I like the defense. I'm gonna take Penn State.
See, I think Penn State's rankings are more realistic because they have had the hardest schedule. I know Auburn are rubbish, but it's on the road against an SEC team. It's never easy. You've played Purdue, who are one of the better Big Ten sides. Got a good offense there. So I think their rankings are more realistic. Like I say, it's that run defense. If you stop Blake Corum running the ball, is JJ McCarthy able to win a game on his own throwing the ball? He's not tested at doing that yet. So that is the question. But it's at home, and as much as I want to, I'm going to say Michigan for this one, but I think Penn State can cause an upset here. I don't think it's a 7-point swing. So Ryan is on Penn State. I am on Michigan. All Pac-12 next. USC at Utah. Utah 3-point favourites for this one, much to all our amusements in the Discord chat this week. So yeah, undefeated USC travelling to reigning champions Utah, two teams experiencing major differing fortunes. So outside of a major scare against Oregon State, USC have been relatively comfortable this season. They've put away Stanford, Fresno State, Arizona State and Washington State. 15th in scoring offense, putting up 40 points per game. Caleb Williams, 14-1 is his touchdown to interception ratio. That is damn good. Travis Dye running the ball well. I think he's got nearly 600 yards on the year. Jordan Addison living up to his Pittsburgh hype. He's got 6 touchdowns on the season already. Defense is miserly, giving up 18.6 points per game. The defense has 3 pick sixes already this season, so beware throwing on them. And it's spearheaded by the ferocious D lineman Tuli Tuapilatu. 12.5 tackles for loss, a forced fumble, and 7 sacks on the season already. This guy is a literal human wrecking ball. And if you're an offensive lineman going up against him, good luck. Utah, disappointing this season. They're 4-2. The Pac-12 defense is in jeopardy, could potentially be over if they lose this one. The two defeats came against Florida and UCLA, while they've beaten Southern Utah, San Diego State, Arizona State and Oregon State. So they've lost the big ones and won the ones you expect them to win. The offense has been good. It's scoring 40 points per game like USC, so they actually score 0.1 points per game better than USC do. The defense is similar. They only give up 19 points per game. That's 0.4 more than USC per game. So actually, they're really similar in their offensive and defensive stats. It's just when pushers come to shove, Utah have kind of messed up in the big situations. Cornerback Clark Phillips has 5 picks on the season, 2 of which he's turned into pick sixes. The safety RJ Hubert has 2 picks, 1 pick six, and he's had over 100 yards returning said 2 picks. He's got 2 forced fumbles and a recovery as well. They are the 2 big playmakers in the secondary there. So Caleb Williams, is he going to want to throw in a secondary that can pick you off if you're not careful? I mean, this is at Utah, right? But it feels like a disrespectful betting line. What are you going with?
Easy. USC are blowing him out. Utah only beat bad teams. Cakewalk schedule. They just beat bad teams. They played 2 good teams, had their ass handed to them, and that defense is going to get pulled apart like wet tissue paper.
I'm going to go USC as well. I think it will be a bit closer, but it depends. I mean, if they stop Travis Dye running and Williams has to throw it, I can see that secondary picking him off. But yeah, they just look far too good at the minute, and that defensive line is going to give Cameron Rising all sorts of problems all day long. So USC sweep on that one. Now, I think this is one of the hardest ones to predict this year. We're back in the Big 12. Oklahoma State at TCU. TCU 3-point favourites for this. So this is a potential high-octane shootout. So you are pitting the 3rd and 4th ranked scoring offences in the nation against one another. TCU putting up 46.4 points per game. Oklahoma State putting up 45.2 points per game. Spencer Sanders, he's really grown into his role at quarterback this year. He's 12-2 with his touchdown to interception ratio. He's got 6 scores on the ground as well. The rushing game is 64th in the country, so this is an offense more happy when it's throwing the football as opposed to running it. But they are good in short yardage situations when it comes to getting touchdowns with the run game, so you can't ignore it completely. It's just better in the red zone than it is on the rest of the field. TCU are a much more balanced offense. They've got 17 rushing touchdowns, 14 receiving touchdowns. Max Duggan, great year. He has a 14-1 touchdown to interception ratio. That is crazy. So these high-powered offenses, they're coming up against middling defenses, let's say. So TCU are ranked 54th, OSU are ranked 58th in scoring defense. Oklahoma State excel against the run. They lead the nations in tackles for loss. They average over 10 per game. They've got 51 tackles for loss on the season after just 5 games. And the run defense is ranked 34th in the nation. It's against the pass where they struggle more. TCU, they rank 54th against the run, but they rank 110th in passing yards allowed per game at 268. So this matchup would suggest that Oklahoma State will fare better, as passing is more their forte, whereas that's the weakness of the TCU defense. TCU are better running it, and they're coming up against Oklahoma State's run defense, which is pretty damn good. So right, Oklahoma State at TCU. TCU 3-point favourites. Who have we got in the battle of the unbeaten?
I'm going to go Oklahoma State because that defense can take away the bread and butter. 14-1 touchdown interception ratio, but end of the day, Max Duggan wants to run the ball before he throws it. He likes to soften up a defense and do damage with his legs. I think if they can contain him and just make him throw the ball, this could be the game where he struggles. This could be the first average game. I think Oklahoma State can take away what TCU are good at. TCU needed a big 60-yard touchdown from Kendre Miller to get past Kansas. I think Oklahoma can take away that big explosive run game. This will be a close one. I think this will be a shootout. But I think Oklahoma State will just take it. TCU are terrible against the pass. Trevis Hodgson Tomlinson, that cornerback, he has been getting smoked all year.
Yeah, I agree here. I look at the matchup on paper, and
it's a bad matchup.
The weaknesses on TCU's defense just happen to be Oklahoma State's strength, and then vice versa. Oklahoma are better at defending what TCU are good at. So I'm kind of with you there. I think Oklahoma State, but I think they're just a really damn good team. They were last year. They are this year. Defense ain't what it was last season, but they excel where TCU do. So yeah, I'm going Oklahoma State as well for this one. Right, moving it on. Some rare AAC action here. Memphis at East Carolina. East Carolina 3-point favourites for this. We just talked about Memphis. Screwed up royally against Houston in the game just gone. They should really be 5-1 instead of the 4-2 of which they sit at. East Carolina are 3-3. It's very hard to tell whether they're good or bad. They threw away what should have been a victory week 1 against North Carolina State, and they just kind of have been a little bit of everything since then, and I still can't tell whether it's good or whether it's bad. The Memphis offense, it is decidedly average. They're better at passing the ball than running it. East Carolina, they are 41st in scoring defense, so they are more than capable of shutting that Memphis offense down if they please. Memphis are 77th in scoring defense. ECU are 63rd in scoring offense. So again, there's not much difference here. They're very mid across the board, these two teams are, but the line is very close. And Memphis did look good for 95% of the game against Houston before letting it go, so they're a good side. And East Carolina on the day, also a good team. Which way do you see this one swinging?
This is hard because I know ECU. They're usually only as good as Holton Ale as the QB plays. They're a very pass-heavy offense. I'm going to take a Memphis upset, but close.
Oh, see, I'm doing the same. I'm going to take a Memphis upset as well. I think they were really good last week. I think they need to come out and prove a point this weekend. So I got Memphis beating East Carolina as well. Right, just got a couple more to go now, and then we're done for the day. Wisconsin at Michigan State. Wisconsin 5-point favourites for this one. I just listened to these stats this year for Michigan State, right? So, a season of such promise which started off at 2-0, they has given way to an 0-4 skid in which they have not been competitive. They've not been competitive at all, really. The offense ranked 104th in total offense, 114th in rushing offense. Bear in mind, there's only 131 teams. 78th in passing offense. The defense, 113th in total defense, 87th in rushing defense, 122nd in passing yards allowed. There are only 9 teams in the FBS who have a worse passing defense than Michigan State. Wisconsin, they're 53rd in scoring offense, but they're only 77th when it comes to their pass game. They are 52nd in the rushing game. They've got Braylon Allen there, of course, even though they're criminally misusing him at the minute. They are also sans a head coach right now. There's no one in charge there. This could be the ugly game of the week, this one, Ryan. What do you think?
Oh, see, I've seen how bad Wisconsin can be. I've seen how they don't use the best player. This reeks of a huge upset. MSU are so bad, but this would be such a Wisconsin game to lose. Graham Mertz, I think, is terrible. I do not trust him as far as I can throw him. But I feel like Braylon Allen can absolutely annihilate MSU on his own. We'll take Wisconsin, but I think MSU are going to cause a huge upset.
See,
I'll take Braylon Allen. That's all I'm picking.
Yeah.
I don't trust Mertz whatsoever.
See, I've been burnt by Michigan State enough times now. However, they're not. When they're up against an offense that's not good passing the ball, the playing field levels out a bit. So I'm going to go Michigan State upset. If they lose, that's the last time I'm betting them on this year. I don't trust it. I think it's going to be an ugly as hell game. I won't be surprised if it's like sub 30 points total. Just no trust in either of these whatsoever. Staying in the Big Ten. Minnesota at Illinois. Now, Minnesota favoured by 3.5. Now, this doesn't seem like a flashy one-off card, but you are bringing together the nation's top 2 scoring defences who come head-to-head with one another. So, the Big Ten currently have 4 of the top 5 scoring defences in the nation. 3 of them sub 10 points a game. So, Illinois, they have the best scoring defense in the entire nation. In 6 games, they've given up just 48 points. That is an average of just 8 points per game. They have conceded 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns in 6 games. That is all they have given up. In rushing defense, they're giving up an average of just 67 yards per game and just 1 rushing touchdown all season. Teams average 2.3 yards per carry against them. And through the air, they give up an average of just 160 yards as well. Minnesota, they've given up just 5 touchdowns and 3 field goals in 5 games. They have the 2nd ranked scoring defense in the nation. Just 81 yards per game on the ground and 2 rush touchdowns given up. Passing defense, it's 2nd in the nation. Just 140 yards per game given up. So Illinois are a bit better against the run, Minnesota against the pass, but both of these defenses right now are elite. Offensively, this is where things change. Minnesota ranked 13th in total offense, whereas Illinois are 67th. But Minnesota have a big imbalance in their offense. They are ranked 6th in rushing offense with 18 rushing touchdowns, spearheaded by one Mohamed Ibrahim, who is expected to play this weekend after a minor ankle knock. In the air, they've just got 7 touchdowns compared to the 18 on the ground, and Tanner Morgan has tossed 4 picks as well. They are ranked 61st, and Illinois just happen to specialise against the run where Minnesota thrive. Illinois, 101st in passing offense, but they are 30th in rushing offense. And in Chase Brown, they have the highest rushing yard running back in the nation this year. And Minnesota's defense struggles more against the run than the pass, even though it's still a really good run defense. So on paper, this kind of favors Illinois a bit, but I just don't even know where to go with this one. These two defenses are elite in pretty much everything right now.
Illinois by a lot. Hannah Morgan is fucking dreadful. And I don't trust Mohamed Ibrahim. He is made of paper mache. He's dominant and he's one of my favourite backs, but I just don't trust him no more.
No.
He had to have a healthy year for the draft. He's already missing time. And I think he's going to get shut down. Tanner Morgan, absolute fraud. Dreadful QB. Offense, Minnesota, absolutely stinks. PJ Fleck should be done for war crimes of what he's creating. Not getting like 10-year contract extensions. But yeah, I'm taking Illinois by a lot. I think Minnesota are going to get embarrassed.
See, that's the thing. I'm taking Illinois. Just because that Minnesota offense is so imbalanced and Illinois thrive against the one part they're really good at. That run defense is elite. And I didn't think I'd be saying that. 3 touchdowns in 6 games is insane at the college level. It just is. I know they're in a bad Big West, but still, 3 touchdowns in 6 games is incredible. So I'm going to have Illinois as well, just because their offense is a little better, and they do have the best, per yardage running back in the nation at the minute. Chase Brown's having a really good year. And we're going to finish this off back with some MAC attack. Eastern Michigan won for us both last weekend, so they make a reappearance on the Pick Watch again. Northern Illinois are visitors this time to Eastern Michigan, who are favoured by 2 points. Now, Northern Illinois' MAC title defense is dead in the water already, and we're not even at the halfway point of the season. They are 1-5. Eastern Michigan are coming off the big in-state victory against Western Michigan. They are 4-2 on the season. Once again, Chris Crichton continues to win games at a team where he has no right to be winning games, because he just shouldn't be winning games at Eastern Michigan. Such is little the resources he is given there. Northern Illinois' offense ranks 57th. The defense ranks 105th. You go figure where the problem is here. They are 48th in rush defense, 121st in passing yards allowed. So the defense is letting them down. The pass defense is really letting them down. Eastern Michigan, they're 65th in rush offense. They're 88th in passing offense. So that doesn't fit well against this Northern Illinois defense. They defend the run better. Eastern Michigan run the ball better. They're 104th in scoring defense. And Northern Illinois' problem is not its offense. So on paper, this is a very tricky matchup for Eastern Michigan, and this could be ripe for an upset, because Rocky Lombardi and that offense are not the problem, and Eastern Michigan's defense is. So what have you got finishing off with the MAC attack?
I think I'm going to take Samson Evans and that rushing offense at Eastern Michigan. I think I'm going to take them in a close one, because lately they're riding the crest of a wave, and they've been running the ball incredibly well for weeks. And I think they might just be able to penetrate that NIU defense.
Yeah.
I think if they can control the clock, keep time of possession with the run game, I think they can probably see it out.
Yeah. I know, it was one of those, I thought I was going to pick Eastern, then I looked at the matchup, I broke it down, and I'm just like, I see favouritism towards Northern Illinois here. I don't think they're just that awful a team all of a sudden, and I just feel like this is a game Eastern can lose. I'm going to go Northern Illinois. I just think the matchup is not great for Eastern, and I think it feels like they would lose a game like this after a big in-state win, so I'm going to go Northern Illinois for that one. So that is everything for the Pick Watch. Other fixtures that are taking place this week, we'll quickly mention. I didn't put them in the Pick Watch for Ash, but Clemson travel to Florida State. We reckon Clemson are going to clench their fist on the ACC a little bit more with this one.
You'd presume so. But if Clemson slipped up, would it surprise me? Probably not, but not. They should get the job done. They should be on the first step to claiming the crown again.
Yeah, I agree with that one. They should be winning that easy, but just you don't know. Stranger things have happened. Kansas, they travel out to Oklahoma. I mean, this is a no man's one. This is. Oklahoma don't have a quarterback. Blown out heavily at home. Kansas have lost their starting quarterback. I don't know. Would it be an upset if Kansas won this one?
I feel like both are in tricky scenarios. I feel like Oklahoma, after these last 2 weeks, are shell-shocked. And it's not a one-loss team that's just lost its QB, like you say. It's not the best opponent, but I feel like this is almost a perfect week for Oklahoma. Because everyone expects them to lose, don't they? Everyone must think Oklahoma are probably going to lose. So this will be the kind of game they can come back and win. But yeah, I think Kansas are in the upset pile potentially. Yeah,
I agree. I think they're in the upset pile, but I don't know. I don't think it'd be as much of an upset usually as it would. So we'll see with that one. What else have we got? We got the Bayou Battle. LSU travel to Florida. The Battle of the Swamp Creatures. That could be really ugly. I reckon that one.
It will be, yeah. That. Not the best game. Like Anthony Richardson's also up and down. Jalen Daniels as well. He's average. It's going to come down to the defenses. That one's going to be a close one. I'd set that over under at like 40 max.
Yeah, it's not going to be pretty. I don't think either quarterback's going to come out of that one very well. Upset alert. UNC travel to Duke. Duke are on the slide. You're not convinced by UNC. Are you willing to put your upset alert hat on that one?
No. I feel like it's a bit of a reach for Duke. I feel like they've had the great start to the season and now they're probably going to struggle a bit. And UNC just score too heavily. Like I said, I haven't seen Duke really being able to keep up with anyone. If May goes out there and drops 40 points, Duke can't keep up with that, no way.
No.
They're not built to score heavily and quickly.
No, agreed. And, oh boy, the end of week schedule is great. New Mexico and New Mexico State and Nevada against Hawaii. How is that to round out a week? Ooh. There's some...
I mean, could Hawaii beat Nevada?
Would that be an upset? Would that be an upset? I don't know. I don't know with those teams.
I think Hawaii winning this year is an upset. Hey, they're still a mess.
Hawaii nearly took down San Jose State this weekend, didn't they? Is it San Jose or is it the other one? San Diego State, yeah. They only lost by 2 points away at San Diego State, so possible they could beat Nevada. I don't know. Were there any other games you'd focus on there's maybe an upset alert? Washington State travel to Oregon State, Arizona travel to Washington. Any Pac-12 upsets?
See, I would watch Arizona. I think Arizona can cause Washington State a lot of problems because they're just a good passing offense and their defense has been stingy. So yeah, I'd say Washington on upset alert.
Washington on upset alert. There you go. There you have it. Those are the ones there. I don't know. Which games are you going to be watching this weekend? Anything specific you've got your eyes on?
Probably Oklahoma State and TCU. The winner of that takes a big leap in the race to win the Big 12.
Yeah, that will be a big one for them. So yeah, that is everything in terms of the Week 7 preview. If you want some college football, there is some on tonight. The Louisiana Raging Cajuns travel to the Marshall Thundering Herd. Marshall, good team this year, although they've been bad the last few weeks, and Louisiana are terrible, so Marshall could very well win that. So a bit of early college football for you this week. Anything else you want to get off your chest before we get out of here?
No, I think it's been an interesting week.
Very much so.
There's going to be a lot of teams this week that get to bowl eligibility as well, because there's going to be a lot of teams that get to 6 now. So it's certainly going to be interesting.
Yep, and a lot of teams going to lose their unbeaten records, so next week's list is going to be a lot shorter. Right, that is everything from us. Thank you to everyone who's joined us at parts in this show on YouTube and Twitch. Appreciate you as always. The next shows, so Monday the 17th of October, our main podcast, we are doing our we're doing a quarter season review, but I'm going to maybe do something different because there's not much to review so far for the Lions. So, but yeah, come join us on Monday. It will be good fun. Me and Ryan will be back in a week, and we will be back with our half-season mock drafts. We will be halfway through the college season. We did it last year. We did half-season mock drafts. Then we do another at the end of the season to see how our opinions have changed. So tune in for that.
Are we going to take current draft position? Are we going to do where we'd pick if we are right now?
Yeah. We'll do where we are, and then yada yada. So I'll work out the draft picks, and then we'll do it. So yeah, half-season mock draft reveal next week. Come join us for that. We'll also take a look at the Week 7 results, and then we'll look ahead to Week 8 as the battle for bowl eligibility and conference titles really starts to heat up. That'll be on the 19th of October. And just remains for me to go through all our socials. So thank you to everyone who has joined us this evening again. So you can find us all over on YouTube, Roar of the Lions UK, just 3 subs short of 600. Hopefully you can get us up to that in the near future. We love each and every one of you who has subscribed to us there. Really appreciate it. On Twitch, ROTL_UK, our Facebook page, Roar of the Lions UK, our Facebook group, Detroit Lions Fans UK, One Pride Worldwide. On Twitter and Instagram, you can find us at ROTL_UK, and our website, www.roarofthelionsuk.com. You can find weekly previews from our writer Ashley about all the games this season. Obviously there will not be one this week because we are on the bye, unless he chooses to write something fictitious about the Lions versus the bye. But yeah, thank you ever so much, and until next time, we shall see you again soon. One Pride.